Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, because I do all kinds of fascinating things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and cage announcer, and I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two co-hosts who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing to you first, in New York, Mark Prio. What's up, buddy?
What's up, boys? We're going to make this intro nice and snappy because it is 10:15 p.m. at night because I made us super fucking late. So, back to you.
And introducing his opponent, talking out of Florida, Omar Artola. What's up, buddy?
It's the best time to try to kick my ass, actually.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, you know.
Dude, I could come to Florida and kick your ass right now.
You could.
But,
you could give
but
it
no
your
other
best shot.
time ever. No other time ever.
I've got maybe one good punch in me before my side hurts at this point. Yeah. So I wasn't here last week. My appendix tried to perform a self-murder. We caught it, and it got snipped out for betrayal. So here we are, 3 holes newer and recovering.
All right. So I'm fresh off the event of APFC 10 this past weekend. I went down in Hammond, Indiana.
Well
done. That's really Chicago. It's really Chicago. It's just like the Indiana. It's the part of Indiana that Chicago kind of spills out into. It's basically like part of a suburb of Chicago, kind of. Anyway, I wish I just called it Chicago, but somebody this weekend told me that like promoting shows in Chicago is like a friggin' nightmare.
I believe that.
Anyhow, APFC 10, man, it was incredible. It was a great night. The place was electric. It was at the Civic Center in Hammond. Special guest, Dustin the Diamond Poirier. I got to intro him to the crowd right before the co-main. It was just, I will never forget it, man. It was unforgettable. Dude,
that had to be just.
And listen,
special.
Credit where credit is due. Mike gave the boy a handshake.
Yes,
huh?
I did.
Mike gave the boy a handshake. We got rid of the thumbs up. We moved on to bigger and better things.
Dude,
Love
I
it.
was legit practicing doing the mic switch in my hand before the event. I was like, because I always hold the microphone in my right hand, and I was like, and I have my card in my left hand. So I'm like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Dustin the Diamond Poirier. And then I was like, I'm going to switch the freaking mic. I'm going to hold the mic. I'm going to like not let him have it and get a handshake and then fork it over.
That's the way to do it.
So that's what I had to do. I had to slow down in the moment and not just be like Poirier and like give him the mic.
Did you speak to him at all outside?
Dude,
I
went up to him. Yeah, a little bit. Well, I talked to him a little bit, a few fights before I introduced him, just to let him know like what was happening. He had no idea what to say. he was like, I have to talk. I was like, yeah. He's like, what do I say? I was like, just say, what's up, Hammond? It's great to be here. I love the fans here. I'm here with my man Showtime. I've been loving these fights. These fighters are great, up and coming, blah, 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 blah. He was like, okay, I got it. I was like, yeah, you're going to be fine. And,
and
dude,
he fine?
I said, yeah, he was great. He did exactly that. It was fine. He talked for like 25 seconds.
Yeah.
And the place, ate it up, man. They loved him. And, when I went up to him too, I think that I saved this for after when we were all doing pictures and stuff. And I said to him, I was like, dude, since I've been working for APFC, I have made a point to keep it cool and to not fanboy over anybody. I mean, I've introduced now John Jones, Nate Diaz, obviously Pettis, and I keep a straight face with everybody. But I was like, bro, with you, man, I got to give it up. I'm such a freaking huge fan of yours, dude. You're an inspiration. And he was the nicest guy. I also had to say that to his wife too. His wife Jolie was there, and I was like, dude, your husband's a fucking man. She's like, oh, thank you so much.
So
that was
great.
cool.
That's awesome.
By the way, I picked up some of those names you dropped there in case you want them back. Just FYI.
Yeah.
I was making a point.
No, you're good. You're good. I just wanted to let you know.
Act like you've been there before, right? That's what I was trying to do.
That's awesome.
Nah, it's cool.
Love that.
Anyhow, big name to keep an eye on is what's it called? The guy who won the main event here, the interim flyweight champ here. Well, now I'm blanking on his goddamn name. Well, that's embarrassing. Let's see. Keep it.
Who are we talking about? What's happening?
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I'm trying to get his name.
There's no interim.
We lost so many fights too. We lost. Oh, Cody Lynn. Yeah, that's his name.
You're talking about in APS. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the main event. He defended the flyweight title. He looked so good. This guy has looked so good in every single APFC fight that I've announced him in. Dude, he's incredible. He's the number one fighter in the Midwest right now. He's going to get called up to either Contender Series or maybe straight into the UFC any minute. I mean, the guy's legit. His jiu-jitsu is incredible. He trains with under Ben Rothwell for Rothwell at Rothwell MMA. So, yeah, a name to keep your eye on. Cody, the code breaker, Lynn, flyweight. He's 8-1 as a pro. The dude is legit. He's 23 years old. He's incredible. His jiu-jitsu is like a fucking buzzsaw.
I love right now that fighters are getting into promoting more regional areas because the talent that's going to come up eventually, like I think the gauge of these guys, these top elite fighters, like even the game breds, right? Like, bare knuckle, whatever else, but like a lot of these up and coming guys are scrappers, man, and they're good fighters. And I think a lot of them coming out of these now newer regional scenes, I think it's only going to get better the more fighters come into that space.
A couple more honorable mentions from this event in what became the co-main in like at the 11th hour, because we lost a handful of fights from this card. Angelo Pettis, cousin to the Pettis brothers.
Yeah. He was in high school when he took his first fight, right? Or something like that?
Something like that. He's very young. And this is his second pro fight. Unfortunately, it didn't go his way. He lost in a decision. Oh, no, he got finished in the third round. At the very, very end, in the last like 30 seconds, he got wrestled, pretty effectively by his opponent, Gage Mitchell. But, dude, young Pettis' hands are nice. Real nice. Yeah. And another guy who went pro debut, a guy named Kevin Mendoza. Really, really promising. So, yeah, names to keep an eye out for.
Nice.
All right. Let's go to the pros. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about on this show. We're going to talk about some of the fights from UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Curtis 2. We're going to preview part of PFL 2, the second installment of PFL's 2024 season. And, of course, we're going to get to UFC 300. Oh, my goodness. Quite a bit to bite into this week. So let us get to thanking our audience right now. For those of you watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Do us a favor. Drop us a comment down below. Let us know how you think we're doing. All right? If you like any of our takes, let us know. If you disagree, we want to hear your takes down in the comments below. If you want audio only, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, find us on social media on all the places at @AndNew_MMA show. Okay. Well, gentlemen, this week the name on the marquee has got to be Brendan Allen, who this past weekend at UFC Fight Night defeated Chris Curtis, getting it back, this time winning by a split decision over Curtis. Mark, let me start with you. What were your impressions of this fight?
I thought it was a really good fight. Both guys left it all out there, pushed with everything they had for all 25 minutes, and God, it was close. I mean, really close. The first round, I thought Brendan Allen came out looking really sharp. He was either waiting and countering or being first, but never really hanging out in the exchanges, and that was working really well for him. He got the back take, obviously, which was a key in that round. So I thought round one was his. The second round was really competitive. It's the one that I would love to go back and watch if there was any. I did think that on the first watch that Chris maybe just edged it with volume. And then third round, obviously, Chris has his big moment. He hurts Brendan bad. He has him wobbled. Brendan, to his credit, survives it and then actually wins the remaining portion of the round after being hurt. But at that point, it was looking like it was 2-1 Chris Curtis. So you got to give Brendan Allen a lot of credit for pulling out the win when he was maybe down 2-1, and it seems like on most of the cards he was. In a grueling fight against a guy that he could barely hold down, who had beaten him before, and he found a way to do it. And he was losing round 4 too in the early going, first maybe whatever it was, minute or two. But then he got his first takedown of that round. Curtis gets up as he kept doing all fight, but Brendan Allen lands that big elbow where he kind of pointed at Chris, and Chris kind of checked his head and reset off of that elbow. Brendan got another takedown, made sure he finished the round on top. So to me, that was a Brendan Allen round. I heard some argument there. I didn't see that. I thought that was Allen's round. So I had a 2-2 going into 5. And then, my God, at round 5, I think Brendan was about to lose that round too. And that it may have truly swung in those final 10 seconds when Chris tore his hamstring. Like, it was close, but I think it was close. Chris Curtis ahead. And then you got like 6 bombs from Brendan Allen in the last 10 seconds just because Chris fucked up his leg. And I really think without that flurry, the result may have gone the other way. That's how critical those 10 seconds were. But I do think that flurry let Brendan Allen eke it out. I do think he won 48-47. Like I said, I'd love to rewatch at some point, maybe round 2, round 5, whatever it may be. But it was a great fight, a tough fight. I guess I could see why some people seem to think it took a little bit of shine off Brendan Allen's run. I've seen some tweets to that effect. Obviously, I saw Marvin Vettori was shitting on him. I kind of get that, but he adjusted to a short notice opponent who was tough as hell, who's a tough stylistic matchup for him, fought a dogfight and pulled it out. So to me, you can't hate on that too much.
Okay, Omar, bringing you in here. What were your thoughts on this split decision? Do you think the rightful man won this fight?
So I thought it was a very competitive fight, but I did think the rounds were relatively clear. I thought Chris Curtis had won rounds 2 and 3. I thought Brendan Allen had won 1 and 4. And going into the 5th round, just like Mark said, I thought I thought that was what the fight at this point was down to, was the 5th round. And again, just like Mark said, those last 10 seconds, I think that's really what lost Chris Curtis that fight. That fight at that point hadn't even really been determined. It was so close, that 5th round, very back and forth, very competitive. And the pendulum swung so far in Brendan Allen's direction and in those last 10 seconds, with Chris Curtis just basically just standing on the fence and defending and like really reacting to the shots. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like he was quote unquote eating them. Like he was getting blasted and moving and getting thrown into the fence as a result of these shots. Like it was as bad of a look without getting knocked out as you can get in those last 10 seconds of a super, super close fight. And I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that fight could have been Chris Curtis's. But the idea that Chris Curtis got robbed in that fight, I think, is crazy. Chris Curtis, the hamstring thing, that shit is my worst nightmare. So I'm not even going to give him shit for that. I don't even want to imagine, because he said he popped it in the 2nd round, which I can only imagine probably was terrible in and of itself. And then he completely tore it in the 5th round. So I can't imagine that pain. But the reality is those last 10 seconds, he gave it away, and Brendan Allen capitalized on it, and he won the fight, I think, as a result of that last flurry.
It was a closely contested fight for sure. I'm pretty happy for Brendan Allen, though. I think I'm glad that his momentum is not taking a halt here, because I think he's a guy that really does belong at the very top of this division. And these guys are very evenly matched. And I think Chris Curtis also is going nowhere. That being said, let's focus first on the winner, Mark. Brendan Allen, he secures his victory. He gets his revenge. These two men are now one apiece, although I don't think that a rubber match is in order right now. I think for now, maybe Brendan Allen should move on. And also Chris Curtis should get his own new opponent. So first, let's focus on Allen. What do you think could be next for him at middleweight as he really gets himself up into the upper echelon?
So to me, I mean, this isn't what Brendan Allen's going to want to hear. To me, the fight to make is still the Marvin Vettori fight that we were supposed to get on this card. I don't think he has like jumped past that level in any way. The problem is I don't think he accepts that fight after Vettori, apparently, according to Brennan, has pulled out on him twice now. I don't think he's getting a title fight as he's throwing out. It certainly seems like we are trending toward Dricus and Izzy, and if we ever weren't trending that way, then I'm sure it would be Dricus and Sean. So I don't think that's happening. But if not Vettori, then I'm here for Strickland. If that's what they want to do with Sean, obviously he's kind of in this weird space right now where they're trying to see how the rest of this plays out around him, or even a returning Cannonier could work. But either way, it's, you know, we gotta be looking at top 5 guys here.
100%. Omar, your thoughts?
I would even entertain the loser of the Robert Whittaker Chimaev fight that's coming up.
Okay, like that too. All right. Let's talk about now Chris Curtis. Mark, who is the name that you would match Chris Curtis up with next were you the UFC matchmaker?
So I missed how we got to this point because I don't think this was the original fight, but I know Michel Pereira is now fighting Ihor Potieria in a couple weeks on that Brazil card. I don't remember who he was supposed to fight originally, but that is how this thing has been rejuggled, which is a very random guy for Michel Pereira to be fighting, considering he is above that level, you would think at this point. But assuming he does get past Potieria, I would love to see him and Chris Curtis.
He was supposed to fight Mahmoud Muradov at UFC 301 in May.
Yeah, that's where he's fighting at. So I guess Potieria, but I thought Potieria was already on that card. Did they both lose an opponent? Maybe that's what happened.
Well, yeah, Potieria was already on that card against Muradov. Oh, no. I see what you're saying. Potieria stepped in?
I could have sworn Potieria was already on the same card, but maybe not. I don't know. But either way, my point is
no,
that
it was originally Pereira versus.
I think he is due to have a shot to crack these rankings, and I think him and Chris Curtis would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was Pereira versus Muradov was the original fight, and Potieria stepping in. Yeah.
All
right. Okay, let's Omar, any thoughts for Chris Curtis's potential next opponent?
Honestly, man, if his hamstring is
that's
torn,
a good point. I'm not even thinking about that.
Legit torn?
Yeah.
I don't think he comes back for the rest of 2024, to be honest. So,
yeah, no,
I'm
you're
just going to stick
right.
with that.
I'm fucking trying to hustle through these things here. I didn't even stop and use my brain. Yeah, he ain't fighting for a minute.
Okay, let's move on to the co-main event. Omar, give us your thoughts on this co-main and how it played out.
Well, it was an interesting fight because we had somebody in Alex Hernandez who is tries to be a very technical fighter, very heavy-footed fighter. And especially at 145, he's a very dense dude. Like his structure is ridiculous. Then you have somebody in Damon Jackson who is a very relatively chaotic fighter. And I think that was really what hurt Hernandez throughout most of this fight. There was a lot of grappling involved, and Hernandez, I just don't think was able to deal with the pace. I don't know if the weight cut really did get to him. We got to remember he didn't make weight. I believe was he the one that weighed 150 for this 145-pound fight?
Yep.
Yeah. So we don't really know how bad the weight cut got. It's possible that they forced him to stop weight cutting because we've seen that happen with the doctors and stuff like that. So the grappling just didn't seem to gel with him in the first 2 rounds. And Damon Jackson definitely took hold of that pace, took hold of him. And while Alexander had his moments, I think for the most part it was pretty clear that Damon Jackson, I thought, had the first 2 rounds. I'm not really sure where the controversy was from. One judge had Alexander Hernandez, I think, winning all 3 rounds, which
he did.
What fucking the drugs on that man. There was no way, especially the first round by itself, even if you didn't look at the rest of the fight, the first round by itself, there was no way Alexander Hernandez had won that round. I don't understand any of it. The third round, though, there seemed to be definitely a sense of urgency from Hernandez. Definitely went a little balls to the wall, a little more balls to the wall in that round, I should say. And I think the pace had worn on Damon Jackson just a little bit, but if you know Damon Jackson, he's not the type to just stop. So he continues, and I think that Alexander just had the better of him in that fight. Definitely had the better shots. I think dropped him at one point, if I'm remembering that right as well. Mm-hmm. So for me, I thought it was a clear 2-1 victory for Damon Jackson. The split decision to me was definitely a little baffling.
It was, man. Poor Alexander Hernandez, man. You think he might get cut now? What is his? How many losses in a row has this guy had now?
I guess that's true. Yeah, it does suck for him because he's a good fighter, man. He's really good.
Yeah, it's 4 out of 5.
He's not untalented.
He's not. He's just not. He's not winning these fights.
Isn't happening, right? It's just not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 4 out of 5. It's 5 out of 7. 6 out of 8. 7 out of 9. Is this right? Am I fucking this up? 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I said it a little bit wrong. But yeah, point being, a lot of losses.
I think
it looks like
Yeah,
looks like he officially weighed in at 147.5. So maybe he went back after he did 150 and tried to cut more.
Oh, maybe.
But either way, that weight cut might have fucked him.
I mean, I think if he does find himself getting cut from the UFC here, I think that there are other opportunities for him that he could capitalize on. I could see him going to PFL and being successful.
Yeah.
He would have to be lightweight there with how quick they turn around in these seasons.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing any pay-per-views anytime soon.
Yeah, I know. Let's first talk about Damon Jackson, who has a record that's more impressive than I realized. His record is 23-6. That is damn good. I think I've mentioned this before on the show. To me, my unofficial benchmark, or one of them, is that if a guy reaches 20 professional victories before he has 10 pro losses, that's very impressive to me. So that being said, being 23-6 is that's pretty damn good, especially in the UFC. And obviously, Damon Jackson also has plenty of LFA experience, which is basically the premier regional in the United States. He has one fight in the PFL, and now he has quite a few fights in the UFC. He's now 6-4 with 1 draw in the UFC and 1 no contest. So, Mark, knowing the result of this fight, and that he's back in the win column, what would you do with Damon Jackson again if you were the matchmaker?
It's a little bit out of left field, but is Ryan Hall ever coming back? What is this dude's deal? He has been out for ages, and him and Damon Jackson would be a fight I would absolutely sign up to watch.
Yeah.
I know he had some sort of issues during COVID, for the longest time, even though I think he fought since COVID. He fought a couple times since COVID. One of them was the Ilia Topuria murder, and I think that was before people really realized who Ilia Topuria really was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really know, man. I don't know. He was apparently supposed to do some Polaris stuff too in 2023, and that didn't happen. So
that makes sense.
Not sure what his deal is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to check one thing. Yeah, another one I'll throw out. We always throw this guy's name out because he's fucking entertaining and he makes for some crazy back and forth fights. But I don't hate the idea of him and Juliana Rosa.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, I don't hate that either, actually. I think for me, for Damon Jackson, I think I'm going to go towards the maybe a Yusuff Zalal. I'm not sure if he's booked against anybody right now.
Yeah, no, not yet. That's cool one too.
Oh, that's right. He just performed a submission on the good old Billy Q. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's give a name for Hernandez, even though he lost and he's not cut yet. Any thoughts on Hernandez's potential next opponent at featherweight or lightweight in the UFC?
I did not have one handy, but I will give you one.
Real quick, I'll go with a Lucas Almeida. Stylistically, I think that could be fun, and if you can't beat a Lucas Almeida, I don't know. I don't know how to help you.
It's actually who I was going to say. So now I'm trying to look for a different one. I tell you what, I don't hate him as the test for C-Rod. We've been talking about C-Rod moving to this like somewhat next level and fighting an established fighter before we really rush him any further. I don't hate that idea.
Okay, let's move on. Down the main card to the lightweight division, Ignacio Bahamondes looked damn impressive, defeating Christos Giagos, by knockout via head kick in the very first round. The official time 3:34 of round 1. Omar, give us your thoughts on Bahamondes' styling.
I actually just caught a clip of this. I should try to find it fucking now. But it did seem like Bahamondes was doing some work there. Mark, I know you caught probably the whole fight, so maybe just give us a little rundown.
I'll handle this one. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say if we're being honest. Bahamondes fought a perfect fight here, leaning on his size. The size was the entire differentiator of this fight. He also looked bigger than ever to me, like physically. It seemed like he was more filled out than we've seen him in the past. But Giagos just could not get inside that reach. He was trying, give him credit. He's always, Giagos is a tough guy. He gets put out, don't get me wrong. He's been finished quite a few times, but he'll battle as long as he's in there. But he was stuck. He was stuck on the outside. He couldn't make anything work, couldn't get the takedown. And eventually he ate a foot to the face for his troubles. So, yeah, it's a big one from Ignacio. He had the Ludovic Klein loss. He hadn't fought in a little bit. And that's a great way to return and get some hype right back on his name and move forward here now. So that was a big one for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing I always find interesting about guys in sort of like the lower weight classes versus the guys in the bigger weight classes, especially just using the main event as sort of a comparison, like the power differential, I feel like is so different that you see these guys don't move nearly as fast or as agile as somebody like a Bahamondes, right? Like both of those guys were moving around, and then the intensity gets crazy once they're going forward for the kill and stuff like that. And you never really saw a lot of those high intensity moments in the main event, a lot of it. And I think that's where a lot of the criticism from like those sparring criticism comes from these Chris Curtis fights, because there never really seems to be a change in aggression or a change in like the effort and impact. It all seems very like baseline throughout the entire fight. And I think there's something good to be said about that, because I think he can keep a certain pace and a certain amount of force in those shots, because they don't look like they suck. They don't suck. Right? I mean, those shots look like they're terrible, but at the same time, there's no peaks and valleys when it comes to how he throws his shots. And when you watch a guy like Bahamondes, being able to be steady and moving around and kind of placing his shots, and then when he sees it, I mean, he's throwing his fucking world into a lot of those shots when he knows he can land them. And those are the fights that I think are exciting, and I think why some guys get a little bit more criticism for not having those peaks and valleys.
Okay. So Bahamondes now improves to 4-2 in the UFC, 15-5 overall as a professional. That was his 10th pro win by knockout. Mark, give us the name of who you think he should match up with next at 155 pounds.
Yeah, I don't want to go too crazy with him. He has the recent loss to Ludovic Klein. He has an earlier loss, a couple years back now, but to John McDessie. So he hasn't, quite proven that he is any higher tier fighter just yet. But we have a fight coming up, I think, in a couple weeks between Terrence McKinney and Esteban Ribovic. And I think the winner of that would be a fun one for Bahamondes, especially if it's McKinney.
Okay, Omar, any other thoughts?
I do have one. I'm just going to quickly double check and see if the boy is booked. And I wonder how Mark will feel about this, because this is potentially still his boy. I'm not really sure where that relationship stands. But I'm going to go with Michael Johnson.
Oh yeah, that's my boy forever. He is booked though in a
No, they canceled it.
In a fucking big fight.
They canceled it. I don't know why.
Who am I thinking? Frivola?
Yes, Frivola.
They canceled that?
It's what it says on Tapology.
Huh. Damn.
Yes.
All right then. Who knew?
Yes.
So then, yeah, I don't hate that. It's still up on SureDog. You sure it's canceled?
That's just what it says on Tapology.
Huh.
Well,
weren't they like the main event, or am I making that up?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it does say. It sure does say canceled.
it sure does.
Well, that's my pick anyway.
Now I'm trying to see if that is the main. If that was supposed to be the main event. Just fucking happened. Work, motherfucker. No, the main event is Derek Lewis and Rodrigo Nascimento.
Oh yeah.
My
cat's screaming at the top of its lungs again. I hear him.
Any other honorable mentions from this fight night card, gentlemen, before we move on to PFL?
Shout out real quick to Norma Dumont still being the queen. Amen.
I knew you would. Man,
Amen.
She was not even considering striking with Durandame. I really didn't think she could have that much success with just a straight wrestling game plan. So, I mean, I guess Durandame,
she's shown that vulnerability. And she's shown that vulnerability before multiple times.
Yeah, but no, good on Dumont. She fought that fight exactly the way she had to fight it. The one round where she didn't have as much success, she got fucking pieced up in round 2. Yeah. But she did enough in the other 2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Queen.
That happens to be the one other fight I managed to see this weekend. So yeah.
Your cat's screaming.
Do you hear him?
I do.
Fucking crazy.
Mark, do you have a rankings update?
I don't. I didn't think we were doing them since we weren't doing the rest of the card.
Okay, no worries. No worries. So what are we doing next? Are we going to
PFL 1?
PFL Uno.
Piffle 1.
Piffle 1. Let's talk about these results, baby.
That's right, baby. Give me all that.
For anyone who's watching the full episode and is hearing our banter right now as we move through things, obviously the main event of this week is UFC 300, where we're going to do a full card preview. So that's why we're kind of just quickly and casually bumping through these other things here so we can get up to that and have plenty of time for it.
Okay, that's Valentin Moldavksy defeats Ante Delija by knockout in the very first round, 2:17 of round 1. Mark, give us your thoughts on this outcome.
Yeah, this fucking stunk. It started out looking good. Delija was bringing the pressure. He was throwing some heat. And then I don't know if it was from the inside leg kick that Moldavksy landed or if it was just a bad step that Delija took. It was hard to tell. They weren't sure live. We haven't heard since. But the fight stops for what we thought was a nut shot in the moment. And then it restarts, and Delija basically can't move, and he just plants his back against the cage. And Moldavksy kind of slowly realizes, like, wait a minute, this is not the same guy I was fighting a minute ago. And once he does, he ups the pressure and he pours it on. And Delija tries to survive, but he can't really move. And he gets finished. And then we found out a little bit after that he actually tore his groin in that exchange where people thought it was a nut shot. So, bit of a buzzkill. We got a fun fight for about a minute, and then it was, more or less over and academic. Not exactly the first main event the PFL was hoping for to start their season, and it was kind of the theme as we moved down this card because the next one was equally as odd almost. But yeah, so Moldavksy got it done, but not a whole lot to say about it because it was really just all about the injury.
True. Omar, your thoughts?
I think the one thing that I don't know if I ever noticed it before or if I was noticing it now, but when he walked into that cage, Delija just seemed really old to me. Just
he has such an old face.
Is that what it is? Because it was giving me like
an old face.
Holy shit!
No, man, he has an old soul.
I couldn't get over that. He just looked so old, and he's younger than me. So it was just really. I had to look it up. I was like, is he like in his 40s and like?
Yeah,
but no,
he's one of those dudes.
Yeah, dude looks like he's got a lot of miles on him, man. Yeah, I mean, like Mark said, there wasn't really a lot to take away from it just because of how the fight went and how it ended. If you take the commentary off and all the volume, it really just sort of looked like he stopped. Like as soon as that exchange was over and the referee kind of restarted the fight, he just didn't really do anything anymore. It was very odd, definitely a little anticlimactic when you kind of think about the fact that I think this was a rematch if I'm not mistaken.
No, this is the first time.
This was the first time?
Yeah.
Who did Delija fight the last time? Anyway, either way, it still ended pretty anticlimactic. And yeah, I'm assuming they're probably going to want to run it back, I guess, at some point. But then again, I don't know how PFL works with all that. So
yeah, no, they were part of the season. So, I mean, it sucks for them. He's probably out of the season now. I can't imagine he's turning around from a torn groin. So that's probably a wrap for him. And then Moldavksy will get whoever they're going to throw at him next with however they figure out these seasons. They say it's all random, but I always feel like they kind of match up to try to get the people in the playoffs that they want in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the way of the world. Okay, so Moldavksy moves on. Let's go to the co-main event. Denis Goltsov defeats Linton Vassell by knockout in round 3. The official time 3:13 of round number 3. Omar, your thoughts of this knockout from Goltsov and how Vassell looked not the best?
It was annoying because he looked great for a round, and then didn't for the rest of the fight, and it was very. It was really annoying because I think we all picked Vassell, right? Or at least me and Mark did.
I've been high on Vassell, man.
That's true. I have not been. In fact, I think this is the first time I've picked Vassell in a long goddamn time. And I picked Vassell just because Mark had made all these great points over the last few fights, and I was never on board and kept losing these picks. And I was like, you know what? I'm on board. And then the time I'm on board, he just decides to come in with 1 round of gas, and I guess that was about it. Not really sure what happened, man. I don't know if it was a preparation thing, obviously, or what. There's a lot of reasons why stuff like that happens, but it happened, and it cost him the entire fight. I mean, honestly, that fight could have been stopped in the second round. I know. It really honestly, he wasn't doing anything. He was just shelling up in a turtle position, just taking shots. And granted, these weren't like the most powerful shots in the world, but there was also. There's no way you're going to argue with me that he was intelligently defending himself, because he wasn't. He was just taking shit. So I don't know. It was a disappointing performance, to say the least. Can't really take anything away from Goltsov because he did what he had to do. They both looked exhausted, but Goltsov just pushed. He pushed through, and Vassell just was dying slowly from round 2 to 3. So yeah, it was rough.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't understand it. Like Omar said, for 4 minutes and 40 seconds or whatever it was of round 1, it was all Linton Vassell. He took Goltsov down relatively easy. He was working from top. He even moved to mount. He was completely in control. He was scoring. Then, 20 seconds left or whatever, Goltsov manages to reverse the position and get on top, but you're not thinking anything of it. And then by the start of round 2, you realize that Linton Vassell is a dead person. Like, he was just completely and utterly gassed. And I don't get what happened. I would love to hear him say something on it. I haven't seen anything from him. Like, I get it. Goltsov's a big, strong dude, and I'm sure grappling with him is draining, but the whole time was Vassell in control. So I don't know how you can just dump that quickly, especially when we haven't seen that issue in any recent fights of his. So I don't know. It was very strange. And then he was, like Omar said, he was just getting run over once round 2 started. He had nothing left. And then by the end of round 2, Goltsov was gassed also. So it just became an absolutely gross fight. Thankfully, Goltsov had enough left in the tank to get the mercy stoppage in round 3, when
which still took
body
forever.
Just was not even responding. But yeah, that was disappointing. Disappointing fight for the PFL, and they had both of these fights, like 2 heavyweight fights, where it was like, damn, this is pretty interesting. Good Bellator guy, good PFL guy. Let's see how these shake out. And it almost feels like they were both a non-result. This one, I guess, wasn't a non-result because it really did happen, but it just didn't seem like the normal Linton Vassell. So they both just feel odd.
Yeah. Well. Oh boy. So Goltsov moves on. Let's go down now to the third fight between Liz Carmouche and Juliana Velasquez. And Carmouche 3-0 shuts out Velasquez. Mark, staying with you, give us your thoughts of Carmouche moving on in the PFL, getting the best of Velasquez once again.
I truly hope that is the last time we have to do this fight. Like, we know how it goes. It should have already been done as a matchup. Went the same exact way again. As good as Juliana may be in different aspects, she can't stand up to the wrestling of Liz Carmouche. That's all it is, and it's not going to change. Liz is too strong. She's too relentless. She has too many ways to take you down. She'll adjust, mid takedown. You stop one, she's going for a different kind of takedown. And once she's on top, Juliana can't get her off. And in this one, too, Liz would have had another armbar if she had 30 more seconds in round 2, maybe even 10 more seconds in round 2. Mm-hmm. So this one is very settled. It's another clear win for Liz. Now, it'll be interesting for her in terms of this flyweight season because she's probably the best girl in it. I mean, she is the best girl in it, at least, resume-wise to this point. But she only gets 3 points here because she had to face Juliana Velasquez right out of the gate. So it's a decision, which is 3 points. And you know how the PFL works. They reward you for finishes. So we'll see who her next matchup is. And hopefully she can make it a finish because if not, you never know. She could be in jeopardy of not even getting to the playoffs, even though she's not losing fights. But hopefully it shakes out in a way where she does move on. But sometimes those decisions can hurt you.
That's true. Very true. All right. Omar, give us your thoughts on this third match between these two gals.
I wonder if they sold this to Juliana Velasquez or to Liz like, okay, you've got a submission on her. You've got a knockout on her. Now you can get a decision on her and just have a clean sweep. And she's like, you're right. Let's do it.
How much does it suck for Liz, though, that the time where she really needed a finish for extra points is the time she finally gets a decision?
Yep. I bet you Velasquez is like, ha, bitch. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's just not the fight I think anybody really asked for at this point or wanted. It's not. And no shade to anybody, but, like, it's not even like this happened a long time ago. Like, both fights with Velasquez I feel like just happened, like maybe
Velasquez
a year or so
never
ago.
fought anyone else in between. Liz at least fought a couple other fights. Velasquez didn't fight. She's fought Liz 3 straight times.
Yeah, so that's crazy. It was just a weird fight. And I think the real problem is there was no way Liz was going to make it. It's difficult to outdo the performances she's already had, and she didn't outdo them. And so it does sort of. I think it loses a little bit of shine too at this point because they're redoing something she's already had to do twice. She's done it amazingly both other times, and now she has a decision, and it's like thanks for coming. I don't know. It just doesn't have anything behind it. There's just no. I don't know. It's missing something.
Yeah,
for sure.
I get it.
Okay, so Carmouche moves on. Are we going to keep going all the way down to?
No, that was it.
No,
that's
that was
it. Okay.
I mean, we're gonna I guess continue PFL because we're going to. Oh, unless we have a sphere to do. Do we have a sphere?
Well, we have a small sphere considering I missed out on like 2 weeks of fight announcements.
Okay, let's go to the sphere.
Yes.
These spring allergies are.
Also, shout out to Dakota. What's her last name? Yes,
Ditcheva. Actually, they were.
Ditcheva. That's right.
I had heard Ditcheva previously, but they were saying Ditcheva.
She looks so good. Yeah, undefeated now. Still undefeated. Excuse me. 11-0. Damn.
She's very good. She tore through that Europe season last year. But yeah, she's legit.
Well, in case you guys were unaware, this is the year where Brian Ortega has won a fight. Connor might be fighting. And John Jones is back in trouble with the law. It's like 2016 all over again. So here we are once again.
That's true.
And John Jones has apparently been accused of assaulting, quote unquote, a drug testing agent, threatening to kill her. And as the story, obviously, John Jones is like, nah, as John Jones does. But I find it hard pressed that somebody would make this up. This seems like a crazy ass thing to make up, right? I mean, like, who would do that?
It does.
It seems weird. And at this point, not really difficult to see in my mind's eye John Jones doing everything that this person said that John Jones did. And so basically the claim is that they obviously showed up to John Jones's house for a drug test. And apparently they're like, why John Jones, I guess, was like, why are you here so early? You guys are always here at like the wrong time, like a bad time or something like that. They showed up at his house at like 4 p.m. Apparently he was taking a nap and there was a birthday party going on. So it's not even like they showed up at like 5 a.m.
That's true.
And I guess he started cursing at them and shit. At one point when they were taking the sample, he like took the tester's phone and like started recording them on their own phone, like saying crazy shit like, here's fucking Jerome and his girlfriend in my garage. And I guess didn't give the phone back, and then eventually gave the phone back. And the tester was like, I was in fear for my life. I felt terrified being next to this man in that state, and I couldn't call anybody because he had my phone. So it's and from the look of the people that were on this security camera, you could probably put both of those testers together, and they're still not bigger than John Jones.
True.
One of them looked like a tiny older white woman, like at least in her 50s or 40s or something like that. Like, I don't know. It doesn't look great for your boy John Jones.
Did you see the video he posted though?
Yes. And you gotta love John Jones though, right? Because he's like, listen, everything's good here. We gave each other a high five and a hug. So obviously nothing happened. Stop asking questions. It's like, it doesn't work like that, dude. Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't follow the whole story, but like in the video he posted, they did seem to leave pretty amicably.
I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to tell John Jones to fuck off when you're legitimately scared of him? Like, I doubt it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do I doubt for a minute John Jones got crazy with them? No, I don't. And it's not like John Jones looked somebody in the face and said, I'm going to kill you. That portion of it was apparently like, why do you guys show up at my house? Do you know what happens to people who show up at my house? They end up getting shot or they end up dead or something like that. Like
Whoa.
Exactly. He was speaking in like relative generalities, right? But obviously pointed at the people who showed up to his house. You know what I mean? Let me see if I can get the exact. And we're all aware of this. And this is why it becomes very upsetting when he keeps doing dumb shit. Because we all know that's not okay. Right? We all know this. But he seems to not know these things. And it makes things very difficult as a fan. Yeah. Okay, here's what he said. He said, why you fucking people come so early? Do you know what happens to people who come to my house? They end up dead.
No, he didn't say that.
That is what she allegedly said. What the victim is saying that he said after he gave back her phone and then got in her face.
Now, I can interpret this as him saying, like, I thought you were an intruder because you're coming at such a random time. And we know that he's like a firearm enthusiast.
But like, why would you say that to somebody that you know that that's their job? There's no genuine reason to say that unless you were trying to like intimidate them to some extent.
He's also been in the UFC for so long at this point, since he was in his early 20s. So it's not his first rodeo.
Yeah, and we also know that he's not great at being honest when it comes to taking drug samples. Ergo, the hiding under the ring incident. I mean, it's not great. His history will follow him for the rest of his life, and it does leave a mark, because when people think about his credibility, it always goes back to the decisions that he makes. And since 2011, every real decision he's made, he's made the wrong goddamn decision. So
you're not wrong.
Here we are.
You're not wrong.
I mean, and we're talking about basic things here. Getting into an accident and running. We don't like, who does that? We don't do that. No normal person just jets from an accident. Like, that's fucking crazy.
That was a long time ago at this point.
Yeah, dude. 100%.
10 years
but
ago?
Like, it's I would say so. It's 2024.
No, you
maybe
know
not
what?
even 10 years, but
That
still.
is normal. That is normal for somebody who has illicit drugs in his car with him.
Dude, it was weed. Like
And
if he had like a pound of heroin on him,
That's
yeah,
true.
all right, I got
That's
you.
true.
He had a baggie of weed. You do not.
But he's
You
a pro
absolutely
athlete.
do not.
He's like,
He's
fuck.
John Jones. If he was some random schmuck in the UFC that was going to get cut as a result of this interaction, maybe. John Jones was never going to get cut from the UFC for a baggie of weed and hitting some women in the back of the car.
Also,
Absolutely
it's
not.
like, why would you?
He
run?
didn't
It's
get
like
cut
the
from
car-
running from the cops, dude.
The car is registered to him, so it's like
Yeah,
they're gonna
he's
know.
not smart. He's not. It's not. That's what I'm saying, dog. It doesn't
We don't
click.
have to keep. We don't have to.
You're
keep
right.
Rehashing
right.
the car accident. It's forever.
But it's just.
Ago,
I think the whole reason I brought that up was just the decision making from the outside looking in doesn't always seem to really bring good results. So,
God,
we'll see what happens with it. But frankly, the allegations are not great. Obviously, he's denying them. He will be fighting them. But the police, the police have issued
fucking John Jones.
I believe they issued a warrant. I don't think they arrested him, but they issued a warrant for him in regards to, I don't remember if they claimed it was battery or what.
God.
But yeah, I mean, it's getting real now. So we'll see what happens. It's potentially, a payoff is definitely a potential thing, some sort of settlement like that. But, we'll see what happens. We're just going to get through a lot of fight announcements. They basically dropped the whole UFC Saudi Arabia card at once. So we're going to get into all of these really quick. And then we will get to the UFC 300 madness. And then we are out of here. First on the list here, we have a update on Mark's boy, Manel Kopp. He is out of his fight with Matthias Nicolau. Nicolau will now be facing Alex Perez, who was originally supposed to be facing somebody else, Tagir Ulanbekov. That fight is no longer happening, and he has been upgraded to the Matthias Nicolau fight. That fight will be happening on April 27th, as opposed to his original fight, which was in... Oh, come on. I just had it, you son of a bitch. Oh, June 15th. So he's moving up just a couple months early to get that done. Mahmoud Muradov is out, as we alluded to earlier, against his fight with Michel Pereira. Pereira will now be facing Ihor Potieria at UFC 301 on May 4th. JJ Aldrich versus Veronica Hardy has been added to UFC's St. Louis card on May 11th, along with what seems to be the main event, Derek Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. We have Piera Rodriguez versus Ariane Carnalosi. That fight has been added to the Vegas card on May 18th, along with Chaos Williams versus Carlston Harris. That, again, is going down May 18th.
It's fun.
Nico Price back in the mix against Jeremiah Wells. That is a banger of a fight right there. That has been added to UFC's 302 card on June 1st. We have Bruno Fajeda versus Dustin Stolfutz. That's been added to June 8th. Thiago Moises versus Ludovic Klein. That is also added to the June 8th card here. Brad Katona versus Jesse Butler added to this June 8th card. And last on this card here, Cody Stamen versus Taylor Lapilus. That fight is absolutely fantastic. I think Lapilus eats in that fight, man, but that's a hell of a fight.
It's a tough fight. Stamen's always a tough night.
Yeah. Lapilus is a technician though, man. That dude is dude's really good. Andre Muniz versus Ikram Alaskarov. That fight has been added to the Vegas card on June 15th. Andre Arlovsky back in your life against Martin Budai. That fight will also be going down on June 15th. These next few fights are all for the UFC Saudi Arabia card. We have this is going to be a real test of my Eastern Hemisphere pronunciations here. So here we go. Mohamed Naimov versus Melsik Baghdasaryan added to the Saudi Arabia card here. Saeed Magomedov versus Montel Jackson. We have Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Nicholas Dalby. That's a scrap right there. That's a scrap. Sharabutin Magomedov versus Ihor Potieria is obviously not happening.
So, okay, there you go. I knew he was booked. I guess it wasn't on the Brazil card, but I knew he had a fight.
So what is the plan here?
I don't know.
Maybe he's not. I don't know.
Confused.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know. But for those of you who might not be aware of who Sharbutin Magomedov is, he is the aforementioned Ginger Khabib, as he was being dubbed. So maybe he doesn't have a fight right now, I guess. I'm not really sure. All of this happened within the last week, so there might be a new announcement for Magomedov later on. We'll update you, obviously, next week if that does change. We do have Johnny Walker versus Volkan Ozdemir. That has also been added to this Saudi Arabia card. Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez. Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. And last on this list, Robert Whittaker versus Hamzat Chimaev. They will be headlining UFC Saudi Arabia. Again, all of these fights going down June 22nd. I'm actually pretty stoked for this card. This card sounds pretty nasty.
Yeah.
We have next Andre Fili versus Cub Swanson. That fight has been added to UFC's 303 card on June 29th. And we have Vivian Araujo versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. That fight's been added to the July 13th card. And that is all we have for you this week.
Okay, let's hop into now previews for PFL 2 and UFC 300. Let's start with PFL. Let's talk about the main card here only for PFL 2, the second installment of the 2024 regular season for PFL 2. You know what? I'm just going to say it. I don't like that PFL numbers their events. Okay? Okay.
Right.
I wish for the annual yearly season, they just call it PFL. And just like have the events.
What would the events
But
be
you
called?
have to designate them somehow.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Just call them more like another evening
You
of PFL
can't just
fights.
call them PFL.
Why not?
You can't.
You're saying call
because
every event the same thing?
Call the event PFL 2024. Another night of the regular season. We like every NBA game, like you know what number game it is for that team, but you don't say like this is game 47 for the New York Knicks. It's just like another game. It's like the Knicks versus the Hawks.
So you wouldn't even do like PFL Moldavksy versus Delija. Just straight
I
up.
guess so.
Oh, all right. Well, at least that you can't
If you
just straight
want.
up put PFL. What do you mean? How would you know what you're watching?
Yeah,
You're watching the 2024 regular season for the PFL.
Like if you had to go, dude. So imagine if you had to go search on ESPN Plus for something.
Yeah,
You're just gonna type in PFL, and it's just gonna show everything, and it's just all gonna be titled PFL.
Yeah,
There's
like your
gonna be
NBA analogy doesn't work because you could just go to a team and click their schedule. For this, if you want to find something, you need to know the name of the event.
Or the fighter.
Yeah, but even in an
team.
NBA schedule, you have a versus, right? Like you have the Knicks versus whatever. You still need like a right. So it still would need to be PFL Moldavksy versus Delija. It can't just be PFL.
Sure, I know that it's not a perfect analogy, but I just feel like the numbering of them is
well. First of all, their numbering system is stupid. It's a very odd. Admittedly, it's not like Bellator though was just doing the regular number system. One FC does the regular, one FC 66, and then we move on with our lives. PFL's PFL 1 2024, to 2025 season shit like that. Yes, you're right. I admit that for PFL,
okay,
but
keep talking, keep making my point for me.
You're right about that. I get
that.
Yeah.
But how else would you do it?
Well, I said my idea, but
I mean, I don't mind PFL 2024 Moldavksy versus Delija. And like we can keep doing that for the rest of the goddamn.
That I guess.
Yeah,
but they don't. Yeah, I guess. I mean, they don't really include the year in every title. I mean, I guess they do.
Yeah, they do.
Well, the PFL, yeah, they do. They PFL whatever 2024 season.
Yeah, this weekend PFL 2 2024 regular season. So every event has 2024
horrible.
regular season. It's a little clunky. It's a little awkward.
Oh, and I think they do that with all. They do that with all of their. That's why I don't like their product labels because they're a mouthful for everything. Like it's going to be PFL Super Pay-Per-View Series 1 2024. Like it's weird. It's not great.
Yeah.
Okay, it's going down at the theater at Virgin Hotels.
Like I don't think you need to go like full intro on these babies. That way we can get over to 300.
Yeah. in Vegas. And let's begin with in the light heavyweight division, Antonio Carlos Jr. taking on Simon Byung.
Oh.
Mark, give us your take for Shoeface versus Byung.
Real quick, because I'm seeing this listed differently in different places. Is Yagshimuradov on the main card, or is he a prelim on where you're looking?
On Tapology, he's on the main card.
He's on the main card.
The next fight.
So we're going to do that one. Okay. All right. So then I'll just say really quickly 3 that we're not going to do that are on the prelims. JJ Wilson's on this card. Godzi Rabadanov's on this card. Brent Primus is on this card. So this is a pretty damn deep card. So definitely worth checking out the whole way through. But then, yeah, so moving to this one. Shoeface has been out for a minute. He missed the entire last season. He won 2022 light heavyweight, but then he missed the entire last season. He's definitely gotten a little bit older. I mean, he's not way up there. I think he's like 35. But I do think this is a matchup that he can return into and exploit. I don't think that Byung is any kind of stud coming out of Bellator. He was fairly middling over there, and I think he can be out-grappled without a ton of trouble, and I think that's what we're going to see. So I'm going to go Shoeface round 1 sub.
Omar.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment. I think Shoeface at this point for me has really kind of turned a corner in his career, especially after leaving the UFC. I think his submission game is significantly underrated, even with all the wins that he has. I just don't think people really respect him for the ground game that the ground threat, frankly, that he really is. But I do think that he's in this fight, so I'm going to go with Junior. I'm going to go with Shoeface as well. First round submission.
I was always a fan of Shoeface in the UFC, and I was sad to see him, part ways with the promotion. So I'm going to go with him, and I agree. I think he's going to find a submission, and I'll say first round as well. Let's go now to Yagshimuradov. Whoops, butchered that one. Versus Jacob Nito. Omar, take this one first.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are this. What is he Russian? What the fuck is going on here? Turkish? Ukrainian?
Turkish.
Fighting out of Ukraine.
No. Who?
Yagshmir. No.
His flag is from Turkmenistan.
Okay. I don't know what that is.
That's one of the
stands.
I do
know. I just know that Sambo base is generally a problem here in MMA. I also know that this Nadoa gentleman is built like a brick shithouse. And I think both of those things there, I can't see the experience of Yagshimuradov not playing a factor in this fight, especially with Nadoa not having nearly as many fights as Yagshimuradov has had. Obviously, he's had a lot more success, borderline, undefeated, all the knockouts. But I just feel like Yagshimuradov has had some success in there. I think I'm going to go with him to give this man his first loss in quite some time by decision. So I'm going to go Yagshimuradov by decision.
This is going to be, I think, actually a very good fight. I'm going to go with the Slovakian, only because I think he's going to be the more athletic guy in there. So I will take him by decision. Mark?
Yeah, Nadeau was is it Nadeau? I don't know why I'm blanking on how it is said. I was literally just watching his highlights earlier. But yeah, he's the PFL Europe champ. He comes over for the main season now, similar to how we just saw from Dicheva last weekend. She killed it. We will see if he does the same. I do think Yagshimuradov's a solid fighter, but it's really hard to pick against Nadeau right now until we see someone offer some type of resistance, which no one has to this point. So I'll go with him round 2 KO.
Okay, moving on. Here we go. Let's keep going here.
Man is massive.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, in the welterweight division, Sodiq
light heavyweight.
Josh. Excuse me, light heavyweight. Why did I say welterweight?
Because he was a welterweight.
Oh, yes, that is why. Sodiq taking on Josh Silveira. Mark, take this one first.
So yeah, to finish that thought, it's crazy because, as I'm sure most of you watching know, Sodiq has been a PFL welterweight for some time now, and he is jumping 2 weight classes here to participate in the light heavyweight season, mainly because there is no middleweight, unfortunately. But it's not as crazy as you think, at least for this particular matchup, because Josh Silveira is really a 185er. Sodiq has been a 185er in his past, so it's not like they're really different size. Sodiq is actually going to be taller and longer, so I don't think the size is going to be a huge factor. Silveira's a tough dude. He can be tricky in there. He can grind guys out, but I don't think he's on the level of a Sodiq technically, and I think he'll get outclassed, so I will go CUD.
Omar.
Yeah. I mean, the last fight with Kasang I think kind of showed kind of that same sentiment, that there's just a technical difference, and I think we're going to see, especially from these guys who are a little bit longer than him. I think I'm also going to go Sodiq here. I'll go with decision as well.
We're unanimous on this one. I'm a big fan of Sodiq. I think he is a super talented fighter, whether it be at welterweight or beyond. I'll take him by knockout, and I'll say second round. Sodiq. Here we go. Okay, in the lightweight division, Mads Burnell taking on Michael Dufort. Omar, take this one.
Mads Burnell is one of these dudes, man, you can't ever count out. He's not, to me, he's not the most technical guy, but he is a fucking workhorse, that man. And that will always present a problem, especially when you start getting into those later rounds, if it's not somebody that can finish Mads Burnell, which, people don't necessarily finish Mads Burnell like that. So, Dufort's good. He's obviously got some good success in his regional circuit here. He's won some PFL challenge, it looks like, in the past as well. But it for me, man, it's super hard to pick against Mads Burnell, especially picking Mads Burnell against with the pace that man brings to a fight. So I'm gonna go with Mads Burnell here. I'm gonna go with a decision win as well.
Mark.
Yeah, so Mads jumps up to lightweight here to participate in this season. Can't really blame him taking a shot at the million. Dufort comes into this actually off back-to-back wins over Luis Pena and Joe Giannetti, who have both fought at the UFC level. So certainly some credentials for him as he hops into his first PFL season. And Mads is, like I said, up a weight class, so it's not crazy to go with Dufort here, but I tend to think Mads' grappling can still be enough to at least get him past this particular matchup. As he has to fight other lightweights, might be a little more problematic. But this one I think he'll get through, and I'll say he'll win a UD.
Nice. Yeah, I agree as well. And I like that choice, and I will agree with you on that unanimous decision victory. Moving on now to staying in the lightweight division here with Clay Collard taking on Patricky Pitbull. Mark, take it first of the 24-12 Collard taking on the 25-12 Pitbull.
I love this fight. I actually think this is the best fight of the whole night. I don't have the odds up here since we were doing this quickly, but I got to assume this is the tightest odds of the whole night. It's a tough one. Patricky made me look bad when I took him to lose to Roberto de Souza, and then he promptly handled him in that fight. I said I would stop doubting him after that, which I sort of always have doubted Patricky Pitbull. I just haven't believed he was like on this, I don't want to say elite level because he's not that, but I haven't even really believed he was on that upper level of fighter. And like I said, I had to eat my words there, but I think I'm going to do it again. I just feel like this particular matchup, I think Clay can take his shots. I think he can roll with some of the bigger shots. I don't think Patricky can just cleanly out grapple Clay if he tried to go that route. And I think a lot of this fight is going to end up being about volume and pressure, and I think that's going to be coming from Clay. So I could see a real close fight. Obviously, I could see it go either way. Like I said, I do think it's a tough call, but I'm going to go Clay UD just behind the pressure and the volume.
Okay, Omar.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that similar boat as well. I think Clay Collard's pressure is definitely going to be a pain in the ass. The one thing I don't trust about this particular Pitbull brother is his durability. I always forget. I'm pretty sure the Patricio is technically younger.
We fuck this up all the time. Yeah,
I know.
right?
I know.
I think you're right.
We're so bad with this. It's because he looks older, but is younger. I feel like that's how I need to remember it. Because that's how I attribute it. He always looks like the older brother for whatever.
Yeah.
Like they're both tiny, but he feels like he's the bigger brother. I don't know, but he's not. Anyway, I say all that basically to just make the point that Patricio to me has always had more of the durability, more of the power, more, I guess, of that. I guess the better brother of the two, if you want to name it something, but just has always had a bit of that edge. And I think Patricky has just shown more vulnerabilities in certain spots where Patricio not so much. And so I think the confidence wavers a little bit when we're dealing with Patricky, but specifically in this fight with Clay Collard and his pressure. That is a factor, but I think the leg kicks are also going to play a factor as well. And Clay Collard kind of has those Justin Gaethje leg kicks where he throws them really goddamn close. He can throw them from clinch range. He can throw them from not kicking range, basically. And I could see him eating up Pitbull's legs, man. Pitbull is both Pitbull fighters, frankly, especially against guys that they want to brawl with, have very, very heavy-footed styles. And leg kicks are going to be the downfall for somebody who sticks to that kind of style. So I expect some leg kicks early. It's very possible that they adjust the further the fight goes down, but I think the damage to the legs will be done early. And even if they do end up adjusting to it, I just think that damage is going to be there. So I'm going to go with Collard here by a third round TKO.
I'm going to go the opposite way from you guys. I'm going to go with Patricky, excuse me. I think he's going to knock him out, and I think he's going to give him only his second knockout loss, but that's my feel on it. I will say third round knockout for the Pitbull bro.
Confirmed he is older. So the heavier brother is the older brother. Just remember it that way.
They both look exactly the same in size.
One fights at lightweight and one fights at featherweight.
But like he technically fought at lightweight too.
Well, yeah, I guess. But it's
just murky.
Patricio's smaller. Patricio fought at bantamweight. Patricio ain't fucking making bantamweight.
That's fair.
Fair.
It's the beard. That's really what it is. It's the
beard. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. Light heavyweight Rob Wilkinson taking on Tom Breeze. So Wilkinson, former PFL winner at 205. When was that? Was that last year or a couple years ago?
Oh, so he won 22. So I guess Shoeface won 2021 then? I guess so.
That's right. And Tom Breeze, whose record stands at 18-4. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
So, yeah, Wilkinson is back. He had obviously become a pretty big deal for the PFL. He had been on a hell of a run there. He had started to build some buzz around himself, and then he popped for whatever that was that he popped for in that mass PFL popping that happened early last year. So he's back. He'll try to rebuild everything now, starting with Tom Breeze. This was supposed to be Phil Davis, which would have been fucking awesome. But Phil dropped out. It's Tom Breeze. And Tom Breeze is a pretty slick fighter. Obviously, he's been around. He's certainly fought some dudes. If you guys don't know Tom Breeze, spent some time in some different high-level promotions, has some quality wins. But all in all, I think Wilkinson is just too physical, too powerful. And I will say Wilkinson, round 2 TKO. By the way, when I'm saying you guys, I'm referring to the listeners, not to you guys.
This is interesting. I didn't realize he had so many canceled fights in the UFC against really decent guys before.
A lot of them were for his own stress. He had like panic attack issues before fights.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I always liked Tom Breeze. I thought he was a good prospect even back then. I thought he was a good fighter. I thought he was really slick on the feet. I thought he was a really good technical fighter. Loved his punches, very long, rangy, extended punches. I love little technical shit like that, especially when guys, look nice when they throw. Kind of a sucker for those kind of things. The real problem is Rob Wilkinson is like a little fucking dog, man. That dude, he's another one that he's not, but he's also not one of these guys that fights pretty, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely a guy that likes to make things ugly and rugged. Likes to have that pressure. Not so much a pace heavy guy, but when the pressure is there, it's there. I haven't seen a ton of Tom Breeze recently to really know where his game is at right now against a guy like Rob Wilkinson. Rob Wilkinson has obviously had some time now to show his determination, to show his grit. He is on a hell of a tear. He's another one with a bunch of canceled fights apparently. But he's on a tear, man, and it's hard to deny the things that Rob Wilkinson has done and what he can still do here. So I'm going to go with Wilkinson here. I think he can get it done. It's probably for me going to be a decision. And I say that knowing that these are, he's been murdering people left and right. But I just don't think Tom Breeze is an easy dude to put out, an easy dude to fight in general. But I just think Rob Wilkinson will have the edge here. So I'm going to go with the decision.
Quick breaking news before Mike picks. In a shock to absolutely no one, Cynthia Calvillo has again been removed from the UFC roster.
Why? What could she have done to warrant being removed from the UFC roster yet again? I couldn't even begin to fathom why.
No one can imagine. Sorry, Mike.
Just,
go ahead.
I mean, sad. It's sad, man.
Yeah. I'm with you guys. I'm going to take Wilkinson. I'm going to say he's going to knock him out in the second round. Okay. Still at the light heavyweight division, Impa Kasanganay taking on Alex Polizzi. So Kasanganay, former PFL winner from last year. He's back at it. Pro record stands at 15-4, 5-1 under the UFC. Also a UFC veteran as well. Take on Alex Polizzi. Easy Alex Polizzi, excuse me. His pro record stands at 10-3. Let's see. He went 4-3 under the Bellator banner, and before he got absorbed up into PFL. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
All right, so Polizzi, nope. Kasanganay is obviously coming off of that close fight with Johnny Eblen. The wrestling of Eblen was a key, and Polizzi is a wrestler. And I always wonder with Impa fighting up at 205, the Eblen one was 185, which is what I believe Impa really should be fighting at. I always do wonder up at 205 what happens when he runs into like a big, strong wrestler. Like if he was matched up with like a Phil Davis, I really do not think it would go well for Kasanganay at all. But in this case, as much as Polizzi is a solid wrestler, I think he's kind of right at the limit of the type and size of wrestler at light heavyweight that Impa can still be fine because he's not that big really. So I think Impa can still look good in this one. I think he can keep himself up, and I think he can eventually catch Polizzi. I will go with a round 2 knockout for Kasanganay.
Omar.
Yeah, I think the one thing about wrestlers that are difficult to deal with are the wrestlers, the wrestlers that are especially good at setting up their takedowns. I think a lot of times with wrestlers that when you're expecting, especially a wrestler to shoot a takedown, if you're not one of the fighters that gets sort of stuck waiting for it, I think it's relatively easy to kind of get those telegraph takedowns timed well, especially if you're a really good striker in the space, in the MMA space. And I just think Impa's on that level. I'm not really huge on Alex's hands and his setups. I just think that Impa is going to be able to capitalize long before Alex has any success getting things down to the ground. Obviously, there's always a possibility that happens, but I'm going to trust Impa to get it done here and get it done early. I'm going to go with Impa KO round 1.
We're unanimous again. I mean, I've been super impressed by Impa Kasanganay. He's been on a tear. He just lost to Johnny Eblen, who is great. One of the best fighters to come out of Bellator. That was a split decision loss. So one of those judges had it going Kasanganay's way, which would have put him on a 7-fight win streak coming into this weekend. So give me Kasanganay, but I think Polizzi obviously is a pretty tough dude. He's only ever been knocked out once. So give me Kasanganay by a unanimous decision. That's it. Let's hop over to UFC 300. Let me pull this shit up.
Here we go.
Boom.
What a great card.
The odds written down. Fucking penis.
What a very uninspired poster, but what a great card.
Great card. It did turn into a great card. And I know that UFC 298 and 299 were both fucking phenomenal cards.
Yes.
Which in some senses, it seemed to, at least earlier on, take some shine away from 300. Of why are they stacking these cards? They should save this all for 300. But there's enough to go around, man, to these different pay-per-view cards. And this is a fucking stacked card as well.
These fight nights around here have been pretty fucking weak because they've been saving all the fights for 299 and 300. But aside from that, I'll take it to get these dope cards.
Yeah.
Where do we begin? Want to start at the very bottom? The very beginning?
Right at the bottom.
We kind of have to. Kind of have to. When your fucking opening fight of the night starts with former UFC flyweight champion Deiveson Figueiredo taking on former UFC bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt. And still, for the sake of time, as much as these guys deserve a full spiel intro, for those who are in the know, they know who these guys are. So, Mark started off. Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Cody Garbrandt. Give us your take and the odds and your pick.
All right, boys. Here we go. UFC 300. Already it's absurd. This is the first fight. Okay. Figueiredo's the favorite. He's minus 310. Cody Garbrandt is plus 250. Cody's 3 inches taller, but Deiveson will actually have a 2.5 inch reach advantage. We were supposed to get this one a while back with Cody dropping down to flyweight to actually challenge Figgy back when he was the champion at 125. So now we get it up at 135, which is pretty cool. I honestly think Cody's pretty live in this fight. I don't know if I'm losing it a little bit, but his offense hasn't slipped. He's still a huge threat. It's just his chin that fails him. And if he can avoid the kill shot, I really don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to steal this thing in a way that no one's really given him a chance to. I think he's going to make Figgy go first, and Figgy can be a little straightforward at times in his attack in a way that I think Cody can slip and rip. I think Cody's going to be plenty fast. He might even be the faster of the two of them. We're going to find that out, but Cody's fucking lightning. His power is still huge. It's going to easily be the biggest power that Figgy has ever stood across from, and it's really not even close. Think about the dudes he's fought at flyweight. There's no one even comparable. And then his bantamweight fight was Rob Font, who's not close to the power of a Cody Garbrandt. So I'm extremely tempted. I think there's a lot of reasons Cody Garbrandt is live. Now, of course, can Figgy put him out? Yes. Can he control range like he did against Rob Font and win a smart fight in and out? Yes. Can he out-wrestle Cody? I'm not 100% sure, but maybe. Cody's wrestling has looked pretty good lately. But bottom line is there's a lot of ways that Figgy could conceivably win this fight, and he's obviously the smart pick. But I don't know what's making me say this. I don't know if it's just that it's Cody used to be this star, and now here he is back on UFC 300, and it's this famous card. I have this weird vibe that all of a sudden Cody Garbrandt is about to matter again. So I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt by UD. Wow,
very interesting. Omar, I want to hear your take.
It's not that.
Not that. Sorry, Mark.
I'm sorry. I and no shade to Brian Kelleher, but I can't use the performance that he had against Brian Kelleher, a recovering, recently spinal injured, surgeried man, and Cody Garbrandt knocking him out as the resurgence of Cody Garbrandt. And against a guy like Deiveson Figueiredo, Cody Garbrandt has changed his style for me a little too much in his approach to trying not to get knocked out that I don't see against a guy like Deiveson Figueiredo, who is of the caliber that he is, that won't happen in this fight. I think he's going to be very tentative. I think he's not going to want to get knocked out, especially after he gets some hands put on him in the very beginning, because Figueiredo is known for starting quickly and putting paws on people. And I just don't think Garbrandt's going to deal with it well. I really don't. I think he goes down. I think he goes down in the second. I go with Figueiredo.
Okay. I'm with Omar on this one, Mark. As much as I like your take.
I fully expected to be alone.
I mean, obviously now that Figueiredo's has moved up, it's intriguing, how he's going to deal with these guys at a higher weight class. But I also got to believe that he's going to be a really natural bantamweight because, man, 25. He was one of the scariest guys we've ever seen cutting weight.
Yep.
So, yeah. I'll go with Figueiredo. I'm going to go with Figueiredo by knockout. I'll say he knocks him out. I'll say in the second round. You think Cody's going to be patient, Mark?
I think he's going to make Figgy go first. I could be going to
make Figgy go first.
Yeah. I think he's going to play a counter game. I could even see him try to wrestle, dude. Not in the first, but like as it goes on.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I mean, let's be clear. If my life was on the line for this pick, I would be taking Figgy. Mm-hmm. But I'm intrigued enough for the sake of making fun picks on this show that I am comfortable throwing out a Garbrandt pick.
Okay, moving on up. Bobby Green taking on Jim Miller. I'm sure there's some kind of stat that Jim Miller is like the winningest fighter in UFC history at this point. So there are stats like that on Jim Miller now.
Oh, yeah.
Omar, start this one off. Give us your take of Bobby King Green taking on Jim fucking Miller.
I mean, this is a beautiful fight for an event such as UFC 300. Jim Miller, obviously, having been to UFC 100, 200, and now 300, there's a little bit of a story there to it, right? Did he say he was going to retire? Is this like officially going to be his last fight, or no? We're just going.
Not that I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Could be a nice storybook ending if he wins. I doubt he would want to go out on a loss, UFC 300 or not. But dude, either way, man, from a technical standpoint,
fucking rankings, he may not want to leave.
Maybe not. Bobby Green, though, is not to be trifled with by anybody. One wrong move, and Bobby Green can definitely put your lights out. I don't really care who you are. The problem with Bobby Green, I think, has always been his inconsistencies and his propensity to play around in there just a little too much. Whether the risk is high or the risk is low, Bobby Green's always in there trying to have some fun. Sometimes he pays for it. Sometimes he doesn't. Usually we're all having a great time watching him, so I don't think there's a lot of complaints in either direction. But if he's trying to get through this fight, man, he's going to have to be on his P's and Q's because Jim Miller is probably one of the best well-rounded guys that you're going to end up facing in your career. He's fantastic on the feet. He's fantastic on the ground. He's fantastic in the clinch. There's not really a ton of holes in there. Frankly, the only way you're going to beat Jim Miller is if you're just straight up better than Jim Miller. And we're going to need to find out whether Bobby's on that level. I love me a Bobby Green. Bobby Green's a straight OG, but Jim Miller is a difficult dude for me to pick against, man. And I just don't know if Bobby Green is better than Jim Miller. I'm going to go with Jim Miller here. I think he chokes him out in the third round.
You think who chokes out who?
Jim Miller, rear naked choke against Bobby Green, third round.
Jim Miller chokes out Bobby Green in the third round. I'll go next on this one because I want to guess the odds. This is a feel one for me because both these guys are getting up there in age, especially Jim Miller. And you wonder how long Jim Miller's going to go until the wheels fall off. But he has looked damn good as of late. He has won 5 of his last 6 fights. His only loss in that stretch was a decision to Alexander Hernandez. That being said, I believe each of those wins were also finishes. Let's see. Knockout, sub. Yep. All of them were finishes. So he has looked great. That being said, I'm going to go with Bobby Green on this one, having just made such a strong case for Jim Miller, who's been fighting so well. But Bobby Green is a guy who, when Bobby Green is on, he looks like he could beat almost anybody at lightweight. So I'm thinking for UFC 300, Bobby Green is a big fight kind of a guy to me, and I think he's going to step up for this event. Jim Miller, I don't expect him to lie down to anybody, but I see Bobby Green knocking him out and giving Jim Miller a bit of this heat check at this stage in his career. Give me Bobby Green by knockout round 3. Okay, Mark.
Did you want to guess the odds? Because you never did.
I'm going to guess that, not what the odds are exactly, but I'm going to guess that that Jim Miller is the favorite. Because he's been on such a tear. I'm wrong.
Really?
Bobby Green is minus 185. Jim Miller is plus 150.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 inches of height for Bobby. The reach is the same. I think Omar said this already, but I love that they went ahead and put Jim Miller on this card. The whole UFC 100, 200, 300 thing is just unreal. And yeah, it's a winnable fight for him too. Like, he could have an awesome moment here. He's going to rip Bobby's legs, you would imagine, try to limit his movement, eventually try to drag him down where he has a significant BJJ advantage. But all in all, I got to go Bobby Green. He's so much faster and cleaner, and I'm just not sure if I see Jim overcoming that. I think he'll have a hard time with Bobby's movement. He'll try to slow him down with the leg kicks, like I said. I'm sure that'll be part of the game plan, but I trust Bobby to get this done. And his takedown defense is pretty solid, generally speaking. He is coming off an inexplicably brutal knockout not that long ago, which gives me a little bit of pause in taking him here. But I'm going to go with it. I think he can make Jim fight his fight more than Jim can make Bobby fight his. So I will go Bobby Green UD.
Okay. All right, moving up to the women's strawweight division. Jessica Andrade taking on Marina Rodriguez. Brazil versus Brazil. Jessica Andrade, of course, the former UFC champ. Marina Rodriguez, nobody's chump. Let's go. Mark, keep going and give us your take between Andrade and Rodriguez.
I didn't have these odds written. I'm just punching them in right now. I'm actually surprised by these odds. I thought the favorite and underdog were going to be flipped, but it is Andrade who is the slight favorite. She's minus 135. Marina is plus 115, so nearly a pick'em fight. 5 inches of height and 3 inches of reach for Marina, so she will be much taller and longer. And yeah, I'm not surprised by the odds because this is a really tough fight to call. In the end, I think it's probably one that may boil down to volume versus impact, the volume being on Marina's side and the impact being on Jessica's. Not that Marina can't hit hard, because she can, but she's certainly going to be the higher activity striker of the two of them. And I think not that long ago, I would have taken her to win this fight, Marina. I was a big believer in her skills, but I've seen her struggle now with stronger girls in Virna Jandiroba, in Amanda Lemos. And I know the styles of them are completely different, and the style of Jessica, it's really three totally different styles. But I think that physicality factor, I can't speak tonight, is something that Marina has a bit of a hard time with, because she's a little lower on the strength scale compared to some of these girls. Uh-huh. And if Andrade does anything at all, it's be physical as hell. My concern in taking Andrade is that maybe we just find out here that the technique is in two very different places, and that Marina's is actually well ahead. So I don't know. I'm torn. Like, a clean technical win for Marina would not shock me, but I'm going to say that Jessica lands big more than once, does enough to change the fight and sway at least a couple of these judges. And I am going to go with a split decision for Jessica Andrade.
Omar.
Yeah, I don't hate that, man. I do see a lot of trying to duck under a lot of Marina's long range shots to try to come over the top with some kind of hooks. If there's one thing about Andrade, man, is if she doesn't get finished, she's definitely liable to keep coming forward the entire fight. She doesn't really do a lot of backing up unless she's like obviously hurt or on the verge of getting finished. Rodriguez, I think, likes to counter a little too much for her own good sometimes. I think she waits a little bit too much to her detriment. And I think Andrade might play into that just a little bit. I think she will want Marina to wait for her. I think she can probably time some things here and there just based off of the anticipation of what Rodriguez is looking for. I think Andrade has the tools to win this fight. I think especially if she plays it right. So I'm going to go with Andrade here. I do think she can win this fight. I don't think it will be a split decision. I think it will be pretty clear, and so I'll go with a unanimous decision for Andrade.
Oh man. I'm going to go the other way than you guys on this one. I think this is going to be... What's that?
You were very Irish about your other way there.
I'm going to go the other way.
Yes.
I'm going to say that Rodriguez gets a huge win over the former champ here because I just love Marina Rodriguez's stand-up, and I think she's going to outshine Andrade in that department. Obviously, Andrade is a fire hydrant of a fighter, so Rodriguez really has to do her best to avoid the takedown and avoid getting bodied by Andrade. But give me Rodriguez by a UD via her striking prowess. Okay, let's go up to Jalin Turner taking on Renato Moicano. Two fan favorites here, especially Moicano at 155 pounds. Turner 14-7 now as a pro. Moicano 18-5 as a pro. Omar, start us off. Give us your thoughts and ultimately your pick.
This is a hard fight for me to pick, man. Jalin Turner, I've been high on Jalin Turner for a long time. Moicano has had some ups and had some downs, and we are in the upside of the Moicano story right now. He has looked fantastic. He has had not only his fighting performances have looked fantastic, but his on the mic performances have also been really fantastic. It's been a fun ride right now. Only lost to Rafael dos Anjos in most recent memory. So like it's, he's in a good space right now. But Jalin Turner, man, is like is a rough out. I know he's got his couple recent losses against Mateusz Garbrandt and Dan Hooker. Both were actually really close fights. I don't even remember. I don't think I thought that he lost that Garbrandt fight. I can't remember now. But these were very close fights. I don't think it said anything negative about his talent or his ability. If anything, it shows, I think, that he belongs to be exactly where he is in that division. And this fight really could go either way, man. Both of these guys have been very, very good lately. I'm going to stick with Jalin Turner, man. I've been on that train for a while. I think that train is going to pay off sooner rather than later. I think this is going to be a hard-fought fight. I don't think either one of these guys are going to get injured, but I do think it's going to be a brawl. It's hard for me not to think the size of Jalin Turner, and what I'm going to assume is a good, significant reach from Jalin Turner wouldn't be a factor. So I'm going to stick with Turner here. I think it'll be a decision win.
Mark, odds. I need to know these odds.
Fairly wide. Jalin Turner minus 245.
Whoa.
Renato Moicano plus 195. 4 inches of height and 3.5 inches of reach for Jalin Turner. As usual, the longer fighter. And I do think logic says to take Jalin Turner to win this fight. He is bigger, he is longer, he's quicker, he's more powerful. That's all in his corner. He's also never been submitted. He's not easy to take down. He's not easy to hold down. But all that being said, I am going to fucking take Money Moicano, and I'll eat it if I'm wrong. It's for a couple reasons. Reason one is that I keep thinking about that Garbrandt fight where he did take Jalin Turner down more than once, and he controlled him in moments. Yes, Turner was getting up, and it was a close fight, but Garbrandt was able to take him down enough to eke out the W. Seeing that, and seeing the way that Moicano just took down Drew Dober with relative ease, makes me think he can get Jalin Turner down. And once on the mat, Moicano, I think, is much more dangerous than Garbrandt. He is a killer down there. You make one wrong move, he'll snatch something up quick. Garbrandt is less about snatching that sub. And reason two is just that Moicano's a friggin' dog. And even if he's losing this fight, I don't see him going away. I could even see him down 2 rounds and pull something out in the third. So I don't know. It could be my fandom here. But I've also never been completely sold on Jalin Turner. And I don't know exactly why that is. I don't little things like the way he let Dan Hooker back into that fight. I don't know. I'm not 100% sold. I'm gonna pick a back and forth scrap, and I'm gonna say it is a sub from Moicano in round 3.
I love that whole take. And I totally agree. So I'm not going to say things differently. I would only be saying them worse. So yeah, I'll take Moicano, round 3, club and sub or something like that. And I cannot wait. And I want this so badly. I just need another viral Moicano on the mic moment. So there you have it. Let's see. What is next? Sodiq Yusuff versus Diego Lopes. Don't they say Lopes sometimes?
In his debut, it was Lopes. Since then, they've all been saying Lopes.
Whatever.
So I don't know if they thought it was Lopes because he's Brazilian and it ended with the S, and then he was like, no, it's Lopes. But it seems to be Lopes now.
It's like, hey, you could be whatever you want to be. Okay, excuse me. Pardon me, Diego Lopes. Sodiq Yusuff, the 13-3 pro out of Nigeria, and Diego Lopes, the 23-6 pro out of Brazil. Omar, start us off this time.
This is a hell of a fight, man. I'm super excited for this one as well. I am super high on Diego Lopes. Even in his introductory fight here in the UFC, outside of his Contender Series fight that he didn't win, his fight against Movsar Evloev was an absolute barn burner, man. Did not win that fight, but he came in that fight, from what I remember, was on short notice and absolutely put on a fantastic performance against that man. And then subsequently went on to win 2 fights afterwards, both finishes. His last one being against Pat Sabatini, who runs a little bit of a name, even as newer as he is as well. I think he's really fucking good, man. I think his performances have been absolutely amazing in his last 2 fights. And Sodiq Yusuff is also a really tough out. He's definitely a difficult fighter to come up against. Edson Barboza had his difficulties in the fight that he won against him. But it's really difficult for me to really pick against Diego Lopes right now, man. I'm firmly on that train. I don't plan on getting off. I'm going to go Diego Lopes here with a first round submission.
Okay.
Which is kind of wild.
Mark, do your thing.
So maybe another one where let me give you the odds first. Diego Lopes is -140. Sodiq Yusuff is +115. Measurables 2 inches of height and 1.5 inches of reach for Diego Lopes. And yeah, I am surprised that Sodiq Yusuff is not the favorite in this fight. He is the far more proven fighter at this point, the longer track record. He's never been submitted in his whole career, which is generally Diego's avenue to victory in most of these fights. So I would have thought that he was the favorite, but and maybe he was. Maybe it shifted. Maybe money was coming in on Diego. Let's see. Now I'm curious, and I do still have it open, so let's fucking see. No, Diego actually opened at -180, so money has come in the other way. Wow. So yeah, I thought I was going to be making an underdog pick here, but I am not. I'm just rolling with the favorite because I am also on Diego Lopes. This is another one that's just a total fucking toss up, but the reason I'm on Lopes is because I think he is going to walk forward and bring pressure, and Sodiq does not do nearly as well in fights where he's forced to be on his back foot. On top of that, Diego is just proving to be a really strong dude in a lot of spots where it looks like he may not have the leverage, and the next thing you know, he's in an advantageous position. His stand-up is showing to be evolving and be dangerous to go with his grappling. So I think he's just a guy who is really peaking at the exact right time, and I could see this being a breakthrough fight for him. And I think that pressure is going to be the key. So I will say Diego Lopes round 2 submission.
Dude, I'm on the Diego Lopes fucking train right now. The dude is just a buzzsaw. Don't exactly sleep on Sodiq Yusuff, man. I mean, in his last fight against Barboza, he was fucking Edson Barboza up in that first round.
Yeah.
The dude has serious power. That being said, I gotta roll with my guy Diego Lopes. Excuse me. I keep wanting to say Lopes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he hands Sodiq Yusuff his second knockout or TKO loss. I'm gonna say it's gonna happen in the first round. There you go. Winner via buzzsawness.
Very nice.
Yeah, man. Okay. Man, this card is so huge. They did a great job. They did.
They really did. As we're going through it right now, it's just like, oh my God.
Like, we're still not even close to the top of this card. No. Okay, here we go. Super fun fight. Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. It finally happened. And Kayla Harrison has wound up in the UFC. And she's starting her UFC journey off by taking on none other than the former UFC bantamweight champion, the preacher's daughter, Holly Holm, whose record stands at 15-6 coming into this weekend. Kayla Harrison, of course, 16-1. That only one loss being, of course, to Larissa Pacheco. But Harrison, a multiple-time PFL winner and a multi-millionaire for those efforts at this point. And now she's taking on a very interesting and tough test in Holly Holm. Holm, of course, going to be probably the smaller fighter in there because Harrison has fought at 45. Probably could fight at 55.
Yeah.
So there you go. Mark, keep going, keep talking, and give us your take and you're picking the odds.
All right, so Kayla's a pretty significant favorite despite the fact that she's trying to get down to bantamweight here. She is minus 450. Holly Holm is plus 340. The height is the same, 3 inches of reach on the side of Holly, so she's actually the longer of the two despite Kayla being bigger. And yeah, this is a wild one, mainly because of Kayla coming to the UFC out of the blue, and then even more so the fact that she is trying to make 135. And a lot of what this fight comes down to is just going to hinge on the weight and on seeing what Kayla looks like on Friday. Does she make the weight? Does she look drawn out? Does she look like she's dying? Does she look like she is ready to go? You know, all of that. It's going to be a lot about evaluating Kayla Harrison when she hits this scale. But if she is not dead, I really do think that she's the pick. It's only 3 rounds, so she can push early if she has, you know, if her cardio is mostly there, she can push early considering she's used to going 5. Yes, Holly knows how to implement that style of keeping space and playing the outside and keeping a fight standing, but I don't think she can do that against Kayla. I mean, the last time Holly Holm won a fight behind her striking was in 2020. Since then, she's lost to Ketlin Vieira. She chose to wrestle against Yana Santos, so she didn't have to deal with the striking. And then she lost to Mayra Bueno Silva. So it's been a minute since she has had like a Holly Holm fight, if you want to call it that. And through it all, we know Holly loves to clinch. So to fight a full fight on the outside, keeping Kayla off her, seems like a big ask. And it almost seems like something she's not naturally going to want to be doing. So I think one way or another, Kayla can push her way inside. And I think she'll take Holly down more than once in this fight and get a clear W. Holly's grappling has improved a lot, so I don't think she gets finished, but I do think it's a UD for Kayla Harrison.
Okay, Omar.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I definitely think the biggest question I have is how easily does she get down? How easily does, I guess I should say, Kayla Harrison get Holly Holm down? Because, you know, obviously one of the biggest comparisons you're probably going to find in this fight specifically is the fight between her and Ronda Rousey, just based off of the judo credentials that Kayla Harrison brings in and the ones that Ronda Rousey had brought in back then as well. Obviously, I think it goes without saying that Kayla Harrison is a much different fighter than Ronda Rousey, even with the judo in place. I think she's obviously a lot more complete of a fighter, and that's not to say she is a complete fighter. She is just more complete of a fighter. Significantly better hands, a much more apt understanding of striking and head movement and distance management. And I just feel like her entries to getting inside won't be as sloppy as the Ronda Rouseys were in that time. A lot of zombieing, moving forward, hands out, kind of praying you're going to grab onto somebody. I just don't think Kayla Harrison is going to approach it that way. I think she is going to have setups. I think she is going to use her striking to get Holly to kind of and use Holly's movements to her disadvantage by potentially cutting off the ring, getting her to back up against the cage, and then just going for double legs and whatever else she needs to do to take her down. So, like Mark said, I can't see Holly Holm keeping her off of the ground for 3 rounds. So I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison here. I don't think she does sub her, but I do think that she gets on top of her pretty handedly, especially once we get into the second round, if not longer. So I'm going to go with the decision for Kayla Harrison.
It's just hard. It's going to be hard to ignore the size of Kayla Harrison. I mean, Holly has always had very good movement, great movement. But yeah, I agree. I just think, MMA rounds are long, and Kayla Harrison is going to have plenty of opportunities to hunt Holly down and just kind of stalk her. So yeah, I have to go with Kayla Harrison by decision here. I feel I don't think she's going to finish her. Holly is going to have bursts of energy towards the beginning of the fight to try to get back to her feet if and when she does get taken down. I would be pleasantly surprised if Holly Holm does a phenomenal job of avoiding takedowns, stuffing takedowns, etc. But I just feel that the smart pick is with Kayla Harrison for the skill, stylistic difference, and size differential. I think both being in favor of Kayla Harrison.
I will say quickly, Saturday, a win for Kayla Harrison on Saturday could be the start of a return to MMA for one Amanda Nunes. I'm going to throw it out there because if Kayla wins and then Kayla fights for a title and wins it, I would be 0% shocked to see Amanda Nunes be like, I'm back, I'm fighting Kayla.
It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Yep. Some steps to go, but just throwing it out.
That's true. Moving on. Here we go. In the featherweight division, Calvin Kattar taking on Aljamain Sterling, the former bantamweight champion. Calvin Kattar 23-7. Aljamain Sterling overall as a pro 23-4. Excellent matchmaking here, and a great test for Aljo in his first venture up at a higher weight class at featherweight. Omar, started off. Give us your take and your thoughts on this fight.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm a little terrified for Aljo in this fight. I guess I haven't seen them next to each other yet. I haven't really gotten to size up the situation in that sense. But like in my head, Calvin Kattar feel like is big compared to Aljamain Sterling, and I don't like this matchup at all for him. I don't see Aljamain manhandling Calvin Kattar on the ground. I don't see Aljamain Sterling out striking Calvin Kattar. Like, and maybe I'm wrong, dude. I mean, the first fight at this point at 145, there's a lot of unanswered questions. We've always seen him outsize guys for the most part at 135. I don't think he's going to have the ability to do that. At the same time, he'll probably be the biggest we've ever seen him. And he might also be the strongest we've ever seen him. So I don't really know what to expect. But like, from what I can see, it looks horrible. Like, I'm not thrilled about it. I hope the best for Aljamain Sterling. I just can't pick this one for him, man. I love him. I would normally pick him, I think, in most other circumstances, but this just doesn't seem to be it for me. I'm going to go with Calvin Kattar here. I give Aljamain Sterling the respect as far as being a champ and probably going the 3 rounds, but I don't see him winning here, man. I go with Kattar here by decision.
Dude, what a great fucking fight is this. Great fight. New York versus Boston. So. New York versus Boston. Let's go. You know who I'm rooting for in this one. But I'm going to go with New York on this one. As much as I am afraid of Calvin Kattar's doggedness and his striking acumen, I'm going to go with Sterling. I think he's a winner, and he's going to find the takedown. And I think he's going to get the win. I think he's going to get the win here, either by submission or unanimous decision with a lot of wrestling. I'm going to make a little bit of a more conservative pick, and I'm going to say he's going to get a UD with a lot of wrestling. Because Aljo's wrestling is so legit. So legit. So let's go for it. Cal Kattar's terrifying,
though. Okay. So, yeah, odds-wise, I thought this one was going to be like a pick'em. And Aljo's minus 170. Kattar's plus 140. So they're giving a little bit of love to Aljo. Oh. I'm surprised it's that wide. 4 inches of height for Calvin Kattar. Only 1 inch of reach. But definitely the larger of the two. Yeah, this is, I mean, as Omar said, this is no easy matchup for Aljamain Sterling because Calvin Kattar has like borderline renowned takedown defense. And on the feet, you would think he can probably box Aljo's ears off. So it's a tricky welcome to 145 for Aljamain Sterling against, it's not even like Calvin Kattar doesn't have a huge name. So like it's one of those fights where it's like you're not getting the huge name and you also are getting a really hard matchup. So yeah, Aljo's going to have to fight a smart fight. He's going to have to really play it safe in order to have success standing and to find entries and find ways to get into the grappling. But I'm going to say he can do it. I went back and forth on this. What sold me is that Calvin Kattar hasn't really fought anyone who's looking to grapple in like 6 years. And the last one was Renato Moicano, who beat him. Now, obviously, Moicano's a lot bigger than Aljo, but my point is, since that time, there's no one who even really looked for it. There's really not a ton of grapplers at featherweight. Like, there's not any Aljamain Sterlings really hanging around. Now, Evloev kind of just came up, but there's really not many guys looking to grapple in this division. And I think Aljo is going to show that he's a little something different. I think we know full well how smart of a game plan he's capable of coming into fights with. I think he can stay way outside, use the kicks, only close when he wants to, find chances to move to the back or to get a trip or put himself in an advantageous position. Not to mention it's Calvin Kattar's first fight back in 18 months after some pretty awful injuries. So yeah, I don't think it'll be easy, but I think control wins the day, and I'm going to say Aljo gets it. UD.
Dude, it's so hard for me to think that the size of Calvin Kattar is not going to play a different, and not even like he's bigger, but he's longer. And Aljamain's always been, I feel like, the taller guy against all these like tiny dudes that he fights. Yep. And the one time he fights a guy who's even the small, like maybe 2 inches on him, and Sean O'Malley, he gets straight up like put out. Right?
You're not wrong.
It's just hard for me to think that a guy in Calvin Kattar who is like, at least feels like he's twice the size of Sean O'Malley is not going to smash Aljamain. It just, man, on paper, it just looks so bad.
I'm actually looking that up right now because I like that kind of visual comparison. So Calvin Kattar is 5'11", Sean O'Malley, which is, I was going to say, I already know that. That's what Sean O'Malley is. So that's the same.
And then just add meat to that kid.
Let's see the reach.
I mean, that's terrifying.
Kattar's reach is 72. I don't know Sean's
6 feet.
Reach.
O'Malley, I think, is 74.
It's 72. Wow, they're literally the same human, except with 10 more pounds. Interesting.
Okay. Let's move on because we actually have 37 more fights to go through. Okay. At 205 pounds, Yuri Prohaska takes on Alexander Rakic. Rakic back in the octagon. Prohaska, obviously the former light heavyweight champ, 29-4 as a pro out of the Czech Republic.
Damn.
Rakic making his return finally to the cage, 14-3 as a pro, fighting out of Serbia. What was his last fight?
The Jan fight.
The Jan fight back in 2022. Yeah. Anyhow, Omar, keep talking and start us off. Give us your take for this fight.
Yeah, I didn't realize it had been that long. Almost 2 years at this point. The better part of 2 years, frankly, at this point. Yeah, I mean, hopefully his leg is back in place and, we're not having to deal with any more poppity pops from there. Yuri Prohaska, though, man, obviously he had his loss to Alex Pereira, but I feel like at this point, losing to Alex Pereira is going to be a thing. I don't really think we can take too much from that as far as the skill of Yuri Prohaska. He's still a beast, still very dangerous. Striking is still something to be concerned about. His ground game is also still pretty good. It's just that Alex Pereira has an axe for a leg and 2 leg kicks from that dude, and people are like, I can't walk anymore. So I don't think we're going to have that issue with Alexander Rakic. As good as he is, I just don't think he presents those same types of threats. I think he's definitely a beatable opponent for Prohaska. And I just don't know what that leg looks like, man. I don't know what his movement looks like. Obviously, I don't think he's going to get back in there unless he felt confident in using it and things like that. But it's, I think when it comes to mental fortitude for me in my head, I just think Prochazka takes that cake as well. So I'm going to go Prochazka here. I believe in him just a little bit more, even with the recent loss. And I'm going to say he puts out Rakic in the second round. TKO.
Okay, Mark.
All right, so they went ahead and made Jiří Prochazka the underdog. He is even money, plus 100. Alexander Rakic is minus 120. So it's more or less a pick 'em, but Jiří is the underdog. And for what it's worth, Rakic opened at minus 170. So it has come way down with money coming in on Jiří. He was plus 140 originally. So that's a little bit wild to me, considering Rakic hasn't fought in 2 years. He has one fight in the last 3 years. He has 2 fights in the last 4 years. Like, the dude is highly inactive. And I'm not saying it's his fault necessarily. He's had some injuries. But it's just, it's really hard for me to trust him that much against Jiří fucking Prochazka. Like, this dude was just recently the champion, and he had round one against Alex Pereira before getting caught. Rakic, sorry, I skipped the measurables. Rakic is 1 inch taller. Jiří has 2 inches of reach. So yeah, going back to the pick, I don't know. I don't see it. Like, I guess I get it on paper about Rakic in that he'll rip the legs, and Jiří is kind of vulnerable to get hurt by leg kicks. Rakic can wrestle. He'll lean on his defense where he kind of plays it safe. He doesn't get hit that much. He'll steal 2 of these rounds. I guess I get it. But I think Jiří's going to come out like a man fucking possessed coming off the Alex Pereira loss. And I think the pressure is going to be high. I think the pace is going to be high. I think they're going to be a lot for Rakic to deal with, having just walked back into a cage for the first time in a couple of years, and what that ring rust can be like and the adrenaline dump can be like, and all of it at UFC fucking 300. And on top of that, I've always felt the way to beat Rakic is with pressure. He loves to play that point fighting game, and I don't think Jiří's going to allow that. Combined with the awkwardness of Jiří, it's hard to point fight Jiří. You know what I mean? It's not something you can really expertly prepare for. So I'm gonna go with it, especially if it takes Rakic a round or so to get himself going. So yeah, I will take Jiří. I guess I'm not going to say finish. I will go Jiří to win a UD.
Jiří by UD. I mean, Rakic is a tough son of a gun. He's only ever been finished twice, been knocked out once, been finished, been subbed once rather. And those haven't been for a long, long time. Let's see. And has he been finished in the UFC? Yes, he's been knocked out in the UFC.
Who has?
That was the Jan fight.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say he didn't get
leg injury.
It was because of the injury. Yeah.
I mean, Rakic has great size as well for 205. But dude, I have to go with the talent and striking of Jiří Prochazka. Personally, I've always been pretty underwhelmed by Rakic. In terms of his skill set, I think he's one of the more boring guys in the roster overall.
Yep. I don't disagree.
And Jiří Prochazka is the exact opposite. The guy is a car crash in human form.
Yeah.
So give me Prochazka. Give it to me. I want Prochazka to hand him his first knockout loss. It sounds like I have something personal against Alexander Rakic. I don't. But there you have it. Give me knockout in round 3 for Jiří Prochazka. Okay, moving up to the next fight on the main card now. Opening the main card in the middleweight division, Bo Nickal taking on Cody Brundage. Bo Nickal now 5-0 as a professional mixed martial artist, having quite the pedigree in the American wrestling world. Taking on Cody Brundage, 10-5 as a pro. Cody Brundage, 29 years old, out of Englewood, Colorado. Other things for Brundage, 5 wins by knockout. He's 4-4 in the UFC. Mark, give us the very wide odds for this fight and your pick.
Would you care to guess? Have you already seen them?
No. It's like, is it minus 800 for
if you multiply it by 3, then yeah. Minus 2,500 for Bo Nickel.
Oh my God.
Jesus
plus
Christ.
plus 1,100 for Cody. So you are getting 11-1 if you feel like sprinkling on Cody. 1 inch of height and 4 inches of reach for Bo. We know what this is. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time discussing this one, I don't think. There is nothing that Cody Brundage has shown in any facet of the game to suggest that he can beat Bo Nickel, in my opinion. I mean, he does love jumping guillotine, so maybe there's some miracle moment where he jumps it and actually works, even though it never really does when he does it in other fights. But I don't think he's guillotining Bo Nickel. I think that Bo is more or less going to do whatever he wants in this fight, striking when he wants, wrestling when he wants, and in the end, I think Brundage gets tapped. I will go with Bo Nickel round 2 sub.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a betting guy. Brundage is plus 1,200.
1,100.
Okay, I see. On
so you would have to.
Some sites he probably is 12. Sure.
So if I put $100 down and he wins, I'd win $1,000 basically.
You're doing 1,200.
1,200.
Right. Minus,
No, not
minus the 100.
No, you would.
Oh, no?
Win the 1,200. Yeah.
You would get 1,200 as your winnings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if I only
and keep your 100 bet.
Okay.
Yeah. You would be $1,200 richer than you were at the start of the day.
So if I only put $10 down, I would win 120.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, might be worth it.
That's what I'm saying. It's a fucking crazy number, but it ain't worth it.
That's betting for you.
Unless you want to bet on Bo Nickel like taking a bad step and popping his knee, then I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't think it's happening any other way.
Okay, Omar.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is, right? There's obviously a chance that Cody Brundage could win this fight, but he's not going to win by anything that anybody's going to like be able to analyze. Like Cody Brundage could definitely do something crazy, something stupid could definitely happen. Bo Nickel could definitely get caught with something, but I mean, dude, what we have to work with, man, there's nothing that says that Cody Brundage is going to get that done. So I'm also going to go Bo Nickel here. I think it's going to be more of a sunning, if you will. And I think there'll be some ground and pound to get this done. So I'm going to go with round 1 TKO.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go with Bo Nickel, man. You have to. You just have to.
You have to until you can't no more.
Too much wrestling. Yeah. Until he gets a heat check, and then you're really going to have to evaluate him fight for fight. But
yeah,
I don't think that Brundage has the skill set anyway to give him much of a challenge here. So, yeah, Bo Nickel by knockout or submission, maybe TKO via ground and pound. I'll say round 2 for Bo Nickel here.
Oh, now we're getting into some meat and potatoes.
We sure are.
Oh, now this whole card's meat and potatoes.
Yeah, but now
Here
it's
we
like
go
fucking
in the
dry aged beef.
It's the Wagyu shit here.
True,
Yes.
Final 4 fights here on the main card, UFC 300. Let's see. We have in the lightweight division. Oh, by the way, it's going down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. What if it was going down at the Apex? How crazy would that be?
Can't even joke like that, bro, anymore.
I know, right? Former UFC lightweight champ Charles do Bronx Oliveira taking on Arman Tsarukyan. So, Charles Oliveira really needing no introductions. He is the 34-year-old out of Sao Paulo, Brazil, 34-9 as a pro with 1 no contest. He stands 5 feet 10 inches tall with a 74-inch reach. Overall, as a pro, his record stands at 34-9. Like I said, with 1 no contest. Under the UFC, 22-9, and that 1 no contest, of course. Most recently, he ground and pounded Beneil Dariush to a TKO victory. That went down in the very first round. And that went down back in June. And now he steps back into the cage against the rising young talent in Arman Tsarukyan, 27 years old. Let's see. He is originally from, is it Armenia?
Yes.
Okay. On Tapology, it says he's fighting out of Russia, though. He stands 5 feet 7 inches tall. His reach is 72.5 inches. Under the UFC, he is 8-2. He's 21-3 overall. 9 of his wins have come by knockout. Another 5 by submission. And and he's on a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend. Most recently, also defeating Beneil Dariush, also by TKO, also in the first round. Now these two square off against each other. Omar started off. Give us your take and your pick for Oliveira versus Tsarukyan.
This is one where I really want to know what the odds are for this one, because as much as we love Charles Oliveira and as much as I'm picking Charles Oliveira to win this fight, this is a crazy ass fight. I mean, Arman Tsarukyan is a monster.
You want to know him before you keep going?
I would imagine Charles got to be the favorite here, man. He's got to be like.
It's got to be Charles.
It's
got to
not
be Charles.
even remotely Charles.
Really?
Disrespect.
Arman is minus 225.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Charles is plus 180.
That is disrespectful.
So how much money are you putting on Charles there, dog?
There's some out there from a few weeks ago.
The answer is all of it.
Some more that comes down soon.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I like Charles, man. I like Charles here. I think he's on a good level here. He's dangerous everywhere. His Muay Thai is disgusting. His ground game is. There needs to be no explanation for his ground game. He is ground game. I think if anything, it'll be a competitive fight. But I just see Oliveira just getting the knockdown and then getting a tap after that, man. I'm going to go with Oliveira here. I think he's going to do it. I'll go with 3rd round submission. But Tsarukyan's a monster, man. He is not to be fucked with.
Yeah, man. Mark, do it. Tell us why.
So you heard the odds. The measurables are 3 inches of height and 1.5 inches of reach, both in the corner of Charles. And yeah, man, we have been down this road before. Everyone continually wants to doubt my boy Charles, and it's happening again here. With that said, I do get it. I think Arman is fantastic. He's great everywhere. He blends everything so well. He will be willing to follow Charles to the floor if Charles drops, which we've seen as a big X factor for Islam against Charles. And Arman can probably do similar things. But as good as Arman is and as impressed as I've been with him at different times, I look at some past fights. The Garbrandt fight was 50-50. Garbrandt won a ton of grappling moments in that fight. Joaquim Silva, in the middle of an ass whooping, clipped Arman Tsarukyan bad. As good as he is, I just think there's levels and that he is a notch below the one Charles is on. And we've seen it for other dudes at lightweight. Like, what have we learned recently? Fiziev turned back by Gaethje. Benoit turned back by Poirier. I mean, hell, Garbrandt just had a harder time with RDA than he even had with Arman. So I don't know. I'm just not. I'll believe it when I see it. And I think Arman is getting dropped. I think if Joaquim Silva can clip him like that, then Charles absolutely can. Where it goes from there in terms of if it's a straight KO or a club and sub, I don't know. But for the sake of the pick, I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira, round 2 TKO. I think it's a left hook in an exchange. Maybe even not the first time he hurts Arman in this fight. And I think he puts him out.
Wow. So Oliveira by knockout or TKO is the pick. In what round did you say?
Dos.
Second round. This is a great fight. And I do think that there is some disrespect towards Oliveira with how far apart these odds are. I think this could or should have been a pick'em fight, even though I admittedly am not like a betting man. But yeah, I think Tsarukyan is a fantastic matchup to go up against Oliveira. Tsarukyan has a great ground game. He's great everywhere, man. He really is the future of the division. That being said, I mean, yeah, I'm going to go with Oliveira here. I'm a little disappointed that he's the underdog. I thought he would have been the favorite. But I think he's going to get it done. I do agree with both of you guys. I'll say he gets it done by club and sub in round 3 for Oliveira. I think it's going to be a war.
Cool.
And I think it ought to be. It really ought to be. It feels like it ought to be. Tough one, though. To be quite honest with you, like I said, I think it could have been a pick'em odds-wise. So I'm not super duper confident in my pick. I'm not like, Oliveira's got it in the bag because Tsarukyan is so good.
He is so good.
But yeah, let's go. We're unanimous on Charles.
Love it.
Okay, 3 more here. And now in the lightweight division once again, Justin, the highlight Gaethje, takes on Max Blessed Holloway. Wow. And this is for the UFC BMF title, which seems to only be a lightweight title so far. Unless Max wins it and then defends it at featherweight. I don't know. Who knows how it's going to work. I think they're just kind of making it up as they go along with this
100%.
whole BMF thing.
100%.
But either way, both of these guys are deserving of this title, but they only have one belt right now. So we have Justin Gaethje, 25-4 as a pro. Max Holloway, 25-7 as a pro. Max Holloway, of course, the former UFC featherweight world champ, one of the greatest, if not the greatest featherweight of all time, arguably. Obviously, there's a couple other guys in consideration for that title. Justin Gaethje, the former UFC interim lightweight world champ. So here we go. Mark, start it off this time. Give us the odds and your take. Each pick.
So Gaethje's the favorite. He's minus 175. Max is the dog at plus 140. It actually was significantly wider. Some money's been coming in on Max that shrunk this line. The height is the same. There is a 1-inch reach advantage for Gaethje. And I have zero interest in picking this fight. I don't know how to do it. I've changed my mind 50 times. Every time I change it, I hold on to a point that convinces me I'm sure that I'm on the right guy now. And then 5 minutes later, I come up with a new point and I change it again. So, yeah, it's fucking hard. Justin Gaethje is arguably in the best form of his entire career right now. He's fighting smarter. He's making in-fight adjustments better than he ever has. Like, just look at these last 2 fights with Fiziev and Gaethje, how he handled them. He is the career lightweight, obviously, going into this against a career featherweight. He carries the bigger power. He's the bigger finisher. Of course, he's going to rip Max's skinny little legs. There is a lot in the corner of Justin Gaethje, and it's really easy to look at it and say, like, yeah, of course Justin Gaethje is going to take this fight. And that's where I was at initially, if I'm being honest. But the more I broke it down, there's kind of a lot on Max's side also. He's faster. I think he's the better boxer. His chin is made of absolute iron. I lean more toward trusting him in the later rounds if this gets that far. Justin has only been to round 5 once, and it was against Tony, who he was drubbing, so it's not like his cardio was necessarily tested there. Max has been there 9 times, and in 8 of his last 9 fights, so he basically lives in rounds 4 and 5. And maybe most importantly, Max has truly sized up for this fight. This ain't the Poirier fight, where he came up as a featherweight to fight Dustin Poirier, and the power was really the differentiator in that fight. Everything else was pretty close. It's just that Dustin was landing with more impact. He has truly sized up now and become a lightweight for this fight. And not to mention, I've already kind of felt like he's been upping his power on his shots a bit recently. I actually remember making this point back when he fought Zombie. It's noticeable. He seems to be hitting harder. So now with the weight, it may even be harder than that. At the same time, he got hit a lot in that Zombie fight, which bothers me. And that is far from the recipe for winning against Justin Gaethje. But we've seen guys stand up to Gaethje's power. Like Chandler stood up to it. Fiziev stood up to it. Dustin has, obviously, a head kick is its own deal. But aside from that, in their fight and a half, Dustin has. And I don't see any reason we should assume that Max Holloway, who's never even been dropped, can't also stand up to it. So, long story short, with all of that said, that's why I find this fight impossible to pick, because I can convince myself of either guy. I think I could list 5 different adjustments they could each make right now that allows them to win this fight. You know, across 10 fights, I think it's 5-5. It's one of those. But I'm going to go with freaking Max Holloway. I think he is going to be the one finishing exchanges, and it's going to make the difference. Like, I can see Justin stepping in for a 1-2 or a punch calf kick combo, and Max is responding with up to 3 and 4, and it's 3 and 4 that land as they're separating, and Justin is already done with his combo. And I could just see him scoring a little bit more that way. And I also could really see him take rounds 4 and 5, which means he would only need one of the earlier rounds, because I don't think Justin's going to stop him. So Give me Max Holloway to win a UD.
Wow. Okay, Omar.
Yeah. I don't want to pick this fight. This fight makes me sad. Makes me sad on all fronts. I just like Mark, this fight can go a lot of different ways. I think for me, what it really came down to was the power of Justin Gaethje, and it's not to say that Max Holloway doesn't have that same type of, can't crack, obviously, but Justin Gaethje doesn't really have soft shots for the most part, and even when he puts volume together, sometimes he has to chill out in that fight because he puts so much behind his shots. And Max Holloway doesn't really have that problem. He paces himself relatively well. He hits hard, obviously, but he's not putting everything behind those shots. Justin Gaethje has a way of doing that while throwing combinations, while still in motion, while still moving and defending, while slipping shots or rolling under. Like he's very, very good, man. Very good at cutting angles while still throwing power. And like Mark said, Max gets hit. And I'm not saying Max goes down. I'm not even saying Max gets knocked down in that fight. But I just feel like he gets tagged a lot more. And I just feel like the more the fight goes on, and if he keeps getting tagged the way I think he does, I think the fight's just going to get more difficult for him to come back from. So it really could go either way. I'm really not counting Max Holloway out of anything because you can't do that. But for the sake of picking a fight, I'm just going to go with Justin Gaethje by decision.
Yeah, tough one. And there's compelling points for Holloway, but I too am going to give the edge to Gaethje for, I think, what will still be a power differential in favor of the highlight. Yeah, I think he retains his BMF belt here. And I'll take Gaethje by UD with a good amount of damage landed against Holloway. And two more. Co-main event, UFC 300 going down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada this Saturday night. In the co-main, we have the Women's Strawweight Championship on the line. Weili Zhang defending her title against Xiaonan Yan. Here we go. Because it's getting late, I'm not going to mash these guys up. Mark, start it off. Give us the odds and your take.
All right, Weili is a big favorite. She might be. Is she the biggest favorite on this whole card, not named Bo Nickel? This would be a lot of scrolling for me to see this. No, you know what? I'm almost there already. Kayla was 450. Now I forget what Weili was. What was Weili? She is.
Is it really that bad?
She's the biggest favorite besides Bo Nickel. Weili is minus 480. Xiaonan Yan is plus 360. 1 inch of height for Yan. The reach is the same. And I kind of get it because I would be truly surprised if Weili doesn't win this fight.
Yeah.
She has made us feel like she's a special fighter on more than one occasion.
She is.
As good as Yan Xiaonan is, I can't say I have felt that from her. Now, on the feet, she's looked nasty. And if it plays out on the feet, it could be a crazy fight because we know Weili can be touched on the feet. We've seen it before. I'm not saying finish necessarily, but she'll eat some shots. The thing is, I don't think it does. I think Weili is going to be wrestling early and often in this fight. And as much as we've seen Yan improve on the ground, like think of the Dern fight where she defended so well, I don't think we've seen her necessarily improve her takedown defense. So I think it's going to end up on the mat. And once down there, Weili is not a Dern at all. She is not going to be setting up submissions and progressing and allowing Yan to try to stay one step ahead. She is going to be fucking wailing on Xiaonan Yan with ground and pound. And I think that's the difference. So between the wrestling and the ground and pound, give me Weili to win by round 3 TKO.
Omar.
Yeah, I think the strength is going to be one of the bigger factors for me between these two. Weili Zhang is a strong individual. And I think when we start getting down to the grappling and the clinching and things like that, I think it's going to be a significant factor against somebody like Yan. I don't think she's felt anybody who's going to be that strong in her career. And that's even including a Jessica Andrade. And I think I say that just because even Weili Zhang got the better in the strength department against Jessica Andrade when they fought. Granted, a lot of that probably had to do with the knees that she was planting inside of her stomach, but regardless, it just seemed like Weili Zhang was the stronger of the two women there, and Jessica Andrade is not generally anything but the stronger woman of the two. So I think Zhang has definitely leveled up, even in the times that we've seen her, in her recent fights against Amanda Lemos, against Carla Esparza. Like, every time we see her, she seems like she's gone up something else. Something else has gotten even better. And I think we're going to see that again in this fight. She's been super impressive since she's won the belt, and she's only gotten better since then. So it's hard to count her out. So I'm going to go with Zhang here. I do think she finishes this fight. I think her ground game and her pressure and her overall strength are going to be too overwhelming for Zhang Xiaonan. So I'm going to go with Zhang here by TKO round 3.
Yeah, you just got to go with Zhang here, man. She's just too much of a phenom. As good as Xiaonan Yan is, the pick is Zhang. I like that pick too, Omar, and I'm going to second that. I'm going to say late TKO. I'll say round 4 TKO for Zhang Weili. And here we go, gentlemen. We have made it to the main event of UFC 300. Once again, going down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, this Saturday night. And main eventing this historic night in the 205-pound division, Alex Pereira is defending his 205-pound title for the first time against the former light heavyweight champ, Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. Pereira, 9-2 as a pro, obviously with a storied kickboxing background. Jamal Hill, also with a smaller record, only 12-1 for the Grand Rapids native, who is only 32 years old. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
This one's also really difficult to pick. I've always been on the Jamal Hill train. I think I picked against him once. But I've been on the Jamal Hill train for a very long time, kind of like I've been on the Jalen Turner train for a long time. But the Jamal Hill train has paid off quite well throughout the years. Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult to pick against him. The reason why it's difficult for people to pick Jamal Hill is because his performances don't always look the most technically savvy. He looks kind of like a street fighter in a sense. It's not like the most pretty, I guess, if you want to call it something, but the man knows what the hell he's doing in there. He's very smart with his setups. He's very smart with his feints. He's very accurate. His pressure is really good when he puts it on. And his ability to follow up and kind of smell blood and go for the kill, I think, is exceptional. And not every fighter has that in the UFC. That being said, Pereira is not new to the game. And in fact, when it comes to that stand-up game, I think he's definitely one of the most dangerous guys in that division. The leg kicks, I think, are on a different level. The fact that he can put down a man with just a handful of leg kicks, I think, is a real problem. I think will definitely play a factor in this fight as well. It's coming up with a conclusion as to who's going to win this fight is just really, it's really, really hard. I think I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Pereira here. There's things like the ankle that hasn't really gotten touched on, that we don't know how that healed and how quickly he came back from that injury and things like that. And I don't think he gets run over, Jamal Hill, by any stretch of the imagination, but I just think Pereira is going to be able to get this one done. I don't even know if he knocks out Jamal Hill. It's very possible this could go 5 rounds and just be a war. A lot of things could happen here, dude. This is a mess. But I'm just going to go with Pereira by decision.
It's a great fight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go the other way. I think a lot more people are going to be taking Pereira here because he's just such a terrifying specimen of a human being. And I feel like Jamal Hill, am I crazy, or is it? I feel like Jamal Hill is slightly overlooked or underrated because the guy is.
I agree.
He's just such a winner, And
Yeah.
I think because of the presence of the Alex Pereiras out there, people kind of don't realize just how phenomenal Jamal Hill is as a fighter.
It might be the lack of flashiness in the way he fights, maybe the lack of athleticism compared to some other guys.
Yeah.
Could be the lack of physique compared to some other guys.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't really know what the deal is, but like he's a lot better than people really give him credit for.
Right. I mean, to that point, since like Contender Series, like he just has like seems like he's progressively putting on more weight, which is always like a little disconcerting. But then you're reminded that like especially like in fighting sports, like physique doesn't really mean all that much. It's not like this guy is freaking ripped, he's gonna win. It's like that's not how it works at all.
You tell Joaquin Buckley that, but I get your point.
Yeah. I imagine, Mark, that these odds are fairly close.
You're right this time. They are very close.
Okay.
So I imagine these are pick'ems.
Okay, let's hear the odds then.
Pereira minus 130, Jamal Hill plus 110. So borderline.
And I figured that Pereira would be the favorite. But I'm glad that they're as close as they are. That's what I was hoping for. And that being said, I'm going to go with my feel, with my gut on this one. It's a feel pick, and I'm going to say that Jamal Hill surprises a lot of people, and I think he knocks Alex Pereira out. I'm going to say this is going to happen in the third round, in the middle of the fight. I think he wears on Pereira a little bit. I think Jamal Hill is also deceptively big. I think he's a bigger guy than people realize as well. I mean, I remember when he fought Glover, like he was throwing head kicks. It looked like he was throwing body kicks. Like it was as though he was only having to lift his leg that high, because he's a big guy. It could happen the other way. Pereira could land that left hook, man, and put Hill on Queer Street. But that's my pick. I'm gonna say round 3 knockout for Jamal Hill. Mark, take us home. Daddy's got to go to bed.
So minus 130 plus 110, as I said. The height is the same. 1 inch of reach for LX. There's another one where I've gone back and forth quite a few times since it was announced. I hate that we have this cloud hanging over the fight where we know Jamal wasn't supposed to return until summer, and yet here he is because UFC 300 needed a main event, and it seems like somehow he was suddenly fine and able to do it. So I'm a little worried about that. That aside, I don't think that Pereira is the ideal matchup for Jamal Hill. And really, it's just because of the same two things that we've said this before in this show, that Alex Pereira just does 2 things really well. Obviously, he does more than that, but the calf kick to the lead leg that you can't see coming and that immobilizes you, and a nuclear left hook. Like, those are the 2 things we always talk about. And I think they both work against Jamal Hill because I know Hill will fight southpaw and he'll switch back and forth, but in either scenario, I think they work simply because Jamal Hill loves to push forward. He loves to bring the fight. He says it all the time. He's in there to fight. He's not in there to point fight or try to win rounds. He's in there to put it on you, and he's going to walk you down, and he's going to try to put it on you. And I just think walking Pereira down, that calf kick is going to be there on either leg, and that left hook is going to have a lot of opportunities to land. And, that's exactly what Alex wants. Think about the way that he handled Yuri when Yuri was walking him down. Like some of his past fights, like Izzy won't do that. Izzy will play the game with him, which made him more of a challenge. Yuri was all forward, and he paid for it. And Jamal isn't as forward as Yuri, but he's forward. Now, can he just be moving forward and be landing cleanly? Like, yes, I even think he will be. I kind of think he is going to be winning more of the exchanges in this fight, which is why originally I was going to be picking him. But I just think at some point he's going to get caught. I don't know. I think the calf kicks will start to add up a little bit, especially if it's on that. I'm just so concerned about that fucking Achilles, if he's getting kicked on that same leg. And then, Pereira's power's big, man. One check left hook lands and Hill survives it, but then 4 minutes later another one lands. Like that might be it. So I'm going to go with Pereira. I'm going to say again that Hill might actually be winning this fight until he's not. until some things add up. But I will go with Alex Pereira, round 3 knockout.
And that does it, folks. Oh man. That's quite the card that we just picked up.
Quite the card.
Facts.
Well, boys, we've done it again. Episode 140 in the books. That being said, it is almost 1 a.m, and I know that we all have things to do tomorrow. So,
Truth.
Hey, folks, we want to hear your picks. Let us know down in the comments who you're picking for any and all of these fights for UFC 300, as well as PFL 2 of the 2024 regular season. Let's go. Well, any parting shots, gentlemen?
Yeah.
That's it.
Good night.
Good night. All right, guys, we'll reconvene next week.
Peace.
Peace.